All righty, with that, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Town of Greenwich Planning and Zoning Commission hearing being held virtually on Tuesday, July 21st. We have two announcements to make. The first is that our alternates are all seated today, and it is as follows. Ms. Jones will be seated for Mr. Yeski.
Recording in
Ms.
progress.
Jenkins will be seated for Mr. McRae, and Mr. Harris will be seated for Mr. Lowe. We anticipate that Mr. Lowe will join us during the meeting, but he will not be seated as he had been traveling and was not comfortable voting on all the items. In addition, we have 5 postponements on this agenda, and they are as follows. Item 3, which is Ferrari Associates for a final site plan and special permit to convert an office building to residential that will be 44 units. Item 4, 2 Deerfield Drive, which is to add 4 residential units at that address for a total of 14 dwelling units. Item 5, Peter Bolt, which is to convert an existing carriage house barn into an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit that exceeds the maximum of 1,200 square feet at 295 Taconic Road. That is a local historic property as designated on the Greenwich Town Code of Ordinances. Then item 7, Grace Bay Holdings for a pool house at 71 Ridgeview Avenue in the RA1. And finally, Newfield Properties 3 at 241 Hamilton Avenue. And that is to add a 3rd unit to an existing 2-family dwelling as an 830G set-aside application. So our postponements are items 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8. And with that, we will begin. Our first item is a discussion item. It's Greenwich Avenue Properties LLC. Should we let the applicant in?
He is. Jonathan Marcus is the
Jonathan Marcus is there. Greenwich Avenue LLC and MBMB Greenwich LLC for a pre-application review to demolish all the structures at 2 and 10 Greenwich Avenue, 10 and 12 West Putnam Avenue, and to consolidate those lots and to construct a single mixed-use building consisting of retail below grade and at the ground floor and 14 residential apartments on the 2nd and 3rd floors. And with that, Mr. Marcus, 2 things before we begin. First of all, we try to keep our part, us and you, to under 20 minutes, this part now. And then we will turn to public comment. We'd like you, of course, to listen to that. We will be limiting the public comment to 2 minutes per person, except for the people who are speaking for groups. And we will explain to the public that this is a pre-application. And also, in case people are already focused on what we're saying, the commission doesn't have the legal ability to deny your proposal for demolition. What we're here to do is to hear about your proposal for a construction project. That is our authority. And so with that, Mr. Marcus, knowing that you have a presentation, just to keep in mind to keep it short. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'll try and keep it short. I apologize in advance. I'm actually sitting at the airport in Raleigh, North Carolina, waiting for a flight back. Hopefully I actually get back. It sounds like a lot of the flights are being canceled.
I'm not sure you're going to get back on time.
Yeah, it's not looking like it.
It's not looking good, given the thunder we've got here and the flooding extent. But go ahead and it'll give you time to talk.
So I'm actually hoping that after I have a chance to speak, a lot less people are going to want to speak, because I think there's a very big misconception of what we're doing. When we first started this about 3 years ago, we understood. We've been in Greenwich for a long time. We own a lot of property in Greenwich. We've been doing business in Greenwich for at least 12 to 13 years now, maybe even more. We understand this property is a very special property. A lot of the properties that we own are very special properties. We really take a lot of pride in them. And we knew that we want to maintain this property for a long period of time. And we want to build something special that not just we would appreciate, but the entire community would appreciate. And at the time, years ago, we had said, hey, we would like to start having conversations about this. We want to start. So the initial feedback was, well, start putting together plans, think about what you guys want to do. And that is what we had done over the last number of years. And then it was like, okay, well, we want to have further conversations. We want to get feedback. And the only way to really get feedback is to submit a pre-application. And we actually spent hours listening to, there was on the town website between the HDC and planning and zoning, there's actually a lot of recorded discussions about how do we, for owners who want to do large projects, how do we get them in early and in communication with the town early before they go through the full drawings and full plan. And the concept of the pre-application was, that's what it was designed for. And that's kind of what we're doing here is we're not against, the building is a special building. That corner building is very special. The historical nature of it is very important to us. The concept that we came up with taking it down and rebuilding it in kind, that was something that we felt helped maintain the historical nature. Now, people can disagree with me, and that is very fair. For us, it was like, okay, well, let's build this out of something that is solid, that's going to last another 100 years because it has already lasted 100 years. And for us, it's how do we maintain this in a fashion so that nobody else is going to come down the road and try and tear this thing down. So we came up with this concept. And we understand this is not perfect. It's far from perfect. There's aspects of it that we really like. There's aspects of it that still need some work. And there's also reasons, there's a lot of reasons, not just what's in the application for why we are proposing what we're proposing, but there's multiple ways to skin a cat. And if we could save the corner building, that was actually our first option, was how do we save the corner building? We have worked with Bianca, Andrew from HDC, and Todd Levine from SHPO. They're wonderful people. You have some great people that work in the town, and they've been absolutely helpful. And I think they have also seen we're willing to work with them. We're willing to figure this out, but we need to have the back and forth. And the problem is, it was a little disheartening over the last 2 weeks because we want to have those conversations, but to hear that somebody is, saying, well, how do we bring a lawsuit to stop this rather than pick up a phone call to call us? I want to have that conversation with key holders. We're more than happy to. This is not something that we said, oh, well, we're going to start building in a year and we're just going to try and bring this to the town and, force it down on everybody. We want to have those conversations and we would like to. It's just, we need the avenue to do it. And that's kind of why we brought this pre-application, is saying, hey, how do we get the avenue to start having these conversations? Because we want to build something special here. And yes, I do feel very strongly about 10 West Putnam and 12 West Putnam and 10 Greenwich Ave. There are systemic problems with those buildings that might not allow us to save those buildings. And that's kind of why we were proposing tearing those two buildings down and building something completely different. Those buildings have 7-foot-high ceilings. There's a lot of issues that we've been trying to figure out ways around. So, and we have ADA issues, we have elevator issues, we have fire life safety issues. So what we said was, let's try and save the corner and build all of the life safety and all the accessibility and all the other stuff around it and try and save the corner as much as we can. Tearing it down was mostly because the avenue, as I think somebody had said recently, is kind of built at an angle, and it's just very hard to tie everything together. In order to do it in a really nice way, a very elegant way, is tearing all the buildings down and kind of rebuilding to Greenwich Ave. And that's kind of what we were, our idea was to actually preserve it in kind, but with obviously new bricks, new windows, but make it look historical to give it that feel. We're not against trying to figure out how to save it. And Todd Levine will tell you probably the same thing. We had a great conversation, and we're hopefully going to have some meetings on site saying, how do we save it? Help us. We're willing to take the help. We're willing to look at it. Same thing with Andrew. Andrew's been great. We have meetings scheduled coming up with some of the HDC members to come and walk the property and let me show you, okay, these are the challenges we're working with. How do we figure out how to resolve these challenges to make this a great project? We want this to be a great project for the town. So that's really my pitch. I'm not going to pitch the project. I'm not going to talk about the heights and all that other stuff, because what we really want is we want to start the conversations. That's what we really want. We want to understand, what are people willing to allow? What do people see as a great vision for the town here? Because it is a special corner, and we understand that.
Okay. All right. So in the presentation that you have for us, you ask you request feedback on 3 things, and we'll circle back to this after we hear from the public. There's 80 people here now. I don't know how many of them wish to speak. You don't want to talk about the height, the story count, or the FAR. And in fact, and that's your first question. I think you've decided to defer it. You would be right. The variance is not up to us, and we will not comment on it. The next question you ask us is, what do we want to know from you? What additional documentation and do we want from you? And there are 2 important things that we're looking for from you. The first thing is a civil engineering report on what cannot be saved and why. And we'd like to have it be civil engineering. We'd like a full detailed report on the issues that you referred to that this building cannot be saved. Following that, we may pursue speaking with another civil engineer, but at this point, we want to know what your civil engineer has said. In addition, the commission is always happy to do a site walk, and we would love to visit the inside of the building and see the issues that you're mentioning. The next thing that gave us pause was your statement that demolishing and reproducing the building was historic preservation. If that's your position, we'd like you to hire or find a historic preservation expert to say that in an official report, because that gave us, as we discussed it yesterday, that did give us all pause. To us, historic preservation is keeping the structure itself and not demolishing it. So when you say about reproducing it when you talk about reproducing it in the spirit, you kind of lose us on that being preservation at this point. So if you want to make that case, we would want to see you make it very fully. I would add to that we had a significant debate recently with the Historic District Commission, in which someone was proposing to keep only, I can't remember, it was less than 20% of an original structure and rebuilding the rest of it. And they were asking us for the zoning bonuses related to preservation of historic structures. And we denied it because we didn't see that small amount of preservation as being true preservation. We didn't see a rebuild as being saving a historic structure. So we denied that request. And it was a very intense debate that we subsequently, and before that, had with the HDC. When does it stop being preservation? And when does it start? It can be a tricky issue, but we'd like you to give us a report on how this is preservation, because you have a couple of sentences there about in the spirit, and that was not what we would have thought. So those are my comments on your 3 questions. We would love to continue to dialogue. If you want to come back for pre-application discussions like this one, you're welcome to do it at any time and have feedback. We cannot meet with you without being in a public hearing, but we would be delighted to continue the dialogue. And more important, we'd like to have the HDC be talking to you, the Historic District Commission. Anything that the rest of the commission would like to add to this? Madam Jenkins.
Yes, just to follow up with Madam Chair's point. You do note that restoration is impractical and inadequate. And we have had other circumstances where a building was cheaper to demolish and start from scratch, even though the building itself was going to be absolutely corrected. And that was not even historic. So I would be naive to not be aware of the fact that there's additional expense in preserving as against recreating the look of. My concern is that your renderings, and again, this is very preliminary because it's only a pre-op. The renderings, I agree that the Tudor look for a building of that size is probably inappropriate because no Tudor building ever had that much mass and height. But I'm a little concerned that the contemporary structures are really overwhelming the very look of the corner structure that I think creates its historical value. The building that's there now has sky and space and air around it. And frankly, with two very distinct, very contemporary, taller buildings, it looks to me like a Tudor sandwich. So even if you were to continue on this proposal and demolish and restore it, you're restoring it at a much more trivial level than it exists now. So my concern, again, is in terms of the scale and the architectural weight of the building, you're overwhelming it with the rest of the proposal. So that would be my concern as well. Thank you, Mr. Marcus.
Mr. Wells. You're muted.
Couple questions, comments. You think of the main building there, which is on a triangular lot, has triangular roof, triangular gables, you know, the whole Tudor theme. But then, unfortunately, on top of that, there's this viewing station and also activity room. It almost looks like it's flattening out the roof. And I just wonder, that amenity is the commercial side of this enterprise, you know, overwhelming the architectural side. I agree on the two side buildings. I mean, I don't think they were built at the same time. I don't think it was part of the same property. It wasn't. So they're kind of add-ons. So, you know, the developer owns them and wants to make it part of it. But the main building is at the corner there, and that's the one that we're principally interested in protecting. And then a final comment on the two additional buildings. They really seem out of place with the original one. You've got those enormous, I would almost call them space windows. They look like spaceships going up, the one along Putnam Avenue. So I think, you know, assuming this goes ahead somehow, I think the architecture needs to be rethought. Thank you.
No.
Thank you. I wanted to sort of echo a lot of what Mrs. Jenkins and Mr. Wells have said, is that the building now feels like it has breathing room. There is the plaza across the way. The other buildings around are set back. They have trees. And this one is right on the sidewalk. You know, given the nature of it. The two other buildings do look as if they were sort of designed to complement and be secondary to this piece at the corner. In the renderings, and I realize they are preliminary, it does feel as if they are overwhelming what is this sort of signature piece that you were talking about as a sort of reconstructed preservation here. And those so I think kind of that side thing, and I think there is, I mean, there are details that are here. I looked around at some of the neighboring buildings. Some are clearly sort of referencing this sort of Tudor revival style, other buildings that are nearby along the Post Road and down Greenwich Avenue. And sort of looking to this building for their reference point. In a way that when this building is sort of referencing itself, we lose some of that preservation or that contextualness that, that is the sort of linchpin of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Brooks, anything?
I just agree with all the comments that have been made. Particularly, I was concerned about the comment that the mass of the building appears to detract from the roof line, which to me appears to be one of the critical aspects. So I don't know what can be done about that. But yeah, I mean, everything that's been expressed are valid concerns. Thank you.
Okay. And I come back to this case for preservation as opposed to demolition, because the other theme that emerges in all the feedback we're getting is that this is one of the most photographed buildings in town, and it anchors the avenue. And I'm not sure anybody can identify what the magic of Greenwich Avenue is, but it has a magic, and it is commercially has an enormous amount of vitality, and we want to preserve that because it's a draw. And we know it's a draw. And so here's this building that anchors the avenue and that puts us on the map, if you will, and was built in 1878. So there you go. So with that, do you have any objection to us turning to the public for comment?
I mean, I wouldn't mind just filling in because I am a little
Sure.
confused because it doesn't fully answer why I'm here.
Okay.
And that's kind of where I was hoping to get is
Okay.
what I'm really hoping to get is how do we have dialogue and conversation? Because it's not really a dialogue here. It's, well, come back and give us information, come back and give us stuff. Where as opposed to, I'd love to sit down with the actual drawing and say, hey, here are some ideas. Let's work together. Let's figure out what could work. And I can show you what are the reasons why we did what we did. And then it could be that works or that doesn't work. But there's really nobody that I can have a conversation that actually, love working with,
I think what you're hearing from, I think that where it's you want to get to an answer, you're
no,
develop-
not necessarily
yeah.
have an answer, but
you want to have okay
actual
So,
discussion.
and
You can't really do that.
Question one from us. Yeah, but come back and have all the discussions you want. Question one from us, from what you've said and what you've submitted to us, is I don't know who needs to be muted. Okay, thanks.
I think
Okay.
the airport noise.
Oh, the airport.
Yeah.
Question one from us is, in your presentation, you say the building cannot reasonably be saved. That's the beginning of our dialogue. Can you tell us more about that?
I mean,
Before- 'cause
possibly.
you're
Shippa,
taking us. Yeah.
Todd
so you're
Levine and I am meeting with him.
Wait.
Yeah, sorry.
So you're saying we want to have a dialogue about what we're going to build. And our first question is, can you just explain to us the engineering behind why you can't do restoration? So that's the first part of the dialogue. Why are you saying that the building can't be restored? We're happy to come visit. We can't dialogue with you there because it has to be out in public, everything we do. But we want to know why you're saying that. And the second thing is, you've said a reproduction is as good as saving the building. And that was a surprise to us. So I'd like to know more about that. And then once we have that information, come back for another pre-application and we'll talk some more. And we'll say, well, we read this and what about this? And when we visited, and hopefully we'll have the public as engaged as now. But that's what we need for the dialogue, is more information. So that's why we need information from you so we can have an intelligent dialogue from our side. Mary?
Yeah, I just want to emphasize that this is a pre-application. So
Right.
in terms of what we're supposed to be doing here is, what are your questions? What more do you need? we're anxious to talk to you. I mean, this is a critical piece of property. You're obviously very enthusiastic about it, which is wonderful. But this is just what questions do you have for us and what questions are we going to ask for you? As Madam Chair says, structural integrity and restoration versus preservation, or I'm sorry, restoration versus demolition and recreation is going to be the heart of this because of the historical value. So I sense your frustration. I'm sensing frustration.
Okay.
I hope I'm
And
not.
so let me step you back. You're talking about SHPO, and that is a different legal process. What we're aware of and what does give a guideline to the Planning and Zoning Commission is, you know, that the Connecticut Environmental Preservation Act says it is to prevent, it considers it an objective, an environmental item to prevent the unreasonable demolition of historic structures which are in a national register, the unreasonable demolition. So the first piece of dialogue with us is this an unreasonable or a reasonable demolition? That's the first question we're asking you, because under state law, that is the mandate. That's one of the mandates to us, and that's the information. We are not in the business of denying demolitions, but we are in the business of following state law. And is this an unreasonable demolition? That's why we're asking you this question. And so what information do we need? Your second question on your presentation on page 17 of your presentation is guidance on additional information or documentation the commission would like to see. I would not necessarily do that at the formal application stage. Come on in with it. Just come talk to us and tell us, or have us do a site walk. But that's where we are.
Yeah,
Unreasonable
that's what I would
under
be thrilled
SEPA.
about. We're not,
Under SEPA,
yeah.
the case for unreasonable demolition. You have to, for us, you have to make that case. You have to show us what a civil engineer says and why this can't be. That's how I'm seeing that, Patrick. Legally, I'm correct?
Yes, if that process is going to be challenged, we need to prove
Right.
that.
So that's the first thing we need to know. And then the second thing we need to know is this statement you make about preservation versus demolition, that you get that by having the spirit of a building, you've preserved its history, which they're commenting to you on the proposal that you've put before us, but I'm going back a step because under SEPA, we do have to ask you about unreasonable demolition.
Yeah, so I'm meeting with them. Todd and I had a very good conversation. It is actually not so clear cut that they can deny it, but we're not looking to have a fight with them. We're looking to try and figure out a resolution of a way to preserve it. So that's the difference. And that's what's so frustrating is we're not necessarily trying to do that.
We are aware that this is vague. In 2021, we had a situation in the Fourth Ward where they were unaware of SEPA. The applicant was unaware of SEPA, and they were proposing to demolish 9 of the 11 contributing structures. And we said to them, we're not seeing this as being necessary, and a reasonable demolition proved the case. They withdrew the application. I don't know for what reasons, but so that's the thing. It isn't just whether the state can intervene. It's also, is the state law apply to you here? And how does the state law apply to you? Because that all of us weigh in on. Make sense?
I mean, it makes sense. It's a little frustrating because I'm trying to come and say, let's work together, as opposed to, and the response I'm getting is, well, you have to prove to us. And it's like, well, I want to work together. We want to figure it out.
We want to figure it out. We want to, but first you have to get us to where you have gotten. You have information that we don't have. So you're saying, let's work together, but there are things that you have seen that you have an engineering report of some kind. We don't have that. So how can we be on the level playing field with
we
you?
don't have an engineering report. We don't have an engineering report.
Then
it's just
how do you know the building can't be saved?
Well, that's one of the reasons why I'm working with Todd Levine is he's coming down and we're going to show him what are the structural members that are there that, and it's not just structural members. It's not like, oh, well, you can't go ahead and fix the structure. It has to do with handicap accessibility. It has to do with elevation heights. It has to do with a whole bunch of issues tying everything together and looking at it with fresh set of eyes. Because like what my conversation with Todd, which was wonderful, is he said, hey, let us come in. We might have a creative idea how you can save it and still get around the problems you're having. That's what I would love to hear. And I'm thrilled. I can't wait. And I think end of August, early September, we're supposed to have a meeting on site, and he's supposed to bring in a whole bunch of his team that has worked on stuff like that. And they can help advise us saying, hey, here's maybe what we can work on.
Right. And ADA has exceptions for historic buildings. So that I wouldn't, that to me, that's a bit of a red herring, because if you were truly saving the building, you would have some exceptions for ADA. So again,
but at the same time, we still need to have it a place that people need to be. I mean, I'm not gonna, we don't want to do something where it's completely inaccessible to people, because we want to be good stewards within the community. So yes, I get it. There's an exception. And I'm not saying we're tearing down the building for that reason. I'm saying, let's take a look at it and figure out the solution.
Right. I understand that. But again, we don't have a level playing field with you right now. You are working with information we don't have. You are meeting with people that we have not spoken with, and we don't know whether this is unreasonable demolition. So that's the start. And then the second thing is, once we get to that point, what constitutes preservation? Because we're having trouble with the spirit thing. We need to understand your thinking on that. You're already at the answer, and you want us to help tweak the answer. We're not at the answer yet. We're not at the tweaking stage. That's what I'm saying to you.
No, I'm not at the answer, and we're not down there yet. I'm trying to get the conversations going. And basically by submitting a pre-application was the only way to get people serious to say, let's have meetings.
So we want you to come back. We want you to share these things. We want you to give us as much information as we need to work with you and dialogue with you in this kind of setting. And whatever it takes to do the right thing for Greenwich. And to do the legal thing, but to do the right thing for the town.
That's what we're looking to do.
Okay, so let's take a look. I'm not sure. I'm not seeing. So are you okay? We can come back and do a wrap up after you've heard from the public. I think you're going to hear a lot of similar comments, certainly the letters we've been getting, and they're all available to you in the public record. You're going to hear very similar things. Our first speaker, if you're ready to go, is Mr. Camillo. Fred, would you raise your hand? I know you're here, but I'm not seeing you. There you are. Dropped it. There it is. So our first speaker is Fred Camillo. And thank you. And kindly go ahead, sir. Our first speaker is the first selectman, Fred Camillo.
Good evening.
Wow, you're in the dark, Fred.
I know. Sorry about that. I have my little dog.
Oh, it's his Fred. In case we don't know who you are, it's his Fred.
Yeah.
Hi.
I got 3 dogs here with me, one on my lap and 2 next to me with this thunderstorm, so they're going a little crazy. But thank you. Good evening to everyone. I've been listening for a few minutes, and I can understand the frustration with someone trying to do a project. There's lots of things to check off, whether they're local or state, but they're there for a reason. And I could just say there's a lot of frustration on the part of people who live here in town. And it's the feeling of, here we go again with something that is, as you have mentioned, Madam Chair, an iconic building in town, maybe the most iconic one. And it's ironic thing is it's just feet away from probably the biggest zoning mistake we've made in the last 56 years, which was the tearing down of the Pickwick Arms Hotel. And for people who lived in Greenwich back then, they still lament what happened there. And this is a beautiful building. And there's so many other venues and buildings in town to make money and to redo. But when you start tearing down things or considerably altering them to have it look like it was, you basically torn down and did away with the history that is associated with that building. Again, I go by lots of landmarks that are no longer there, and I know that this commission has done a great job trying to protect what's left. But I'm just shocked that this one has become a target because, as you said, if you Google Greenwich, this comes up, right? And the people of Greenwich do not want to see this altered in any way. It is a beautiful landmark. And once it's gone or once it's altered in a way where people can notice the difference, you don't have the same building anymore. So in all transparency, I've reached out to the state and I spoke with many people to present the town's position on this. So we just wanted to get on record that we are 100% in favor of keeping this building as is. And I'm all for thoughtful development or redevelopment, but not on landmarks such as this. Once, like I said, once they are gone or once they're altered, they're not the same anymore, and you can't take it back.
Thank you very much, Mr. Camillo.
Thank you. Have a great night.
We are going to allow another elected official to speak. That would be Tina Corpus, and she will be followed by the Greenwich Historical Society, who is speaking for the entire society. Hello, Ms. Corpus. Thank you for joining us. Would the Historical Society kindly raise your virtual hand while Tina's speaking?
Thank you, Chairwoman Albin. I'm State Rep Tina Corpus. I strongly support a state review of the proposal at 2 Greenwich Avenue, and I've initiated dialogue with the relevant state officials on the town's behalf. I'm appealing to fellow officers of the state based on 2 questions. Number 1, what is the public benefit gain from demolishing this building? Usually, historical preservation questions are balancing, on the one hand, our history and preserving it, and on the other, supporting growth, expansion, and commercial development. In this case, there really hasn't been, thus far, sufficient evidence presented that this proposed project would increase commerce on our main street, it would add housing, it would enhance the beauty of Greenwich, it would stimulate business, or keep the town or state vibrant. In other words, it's not clear what we'll gain by demolishing this historic building, but it is very clear that we have a lot to lose. The second question informing my dialogue with state officials is that we have 4 sets of options under the state standards. Those are preservation, rehabilitation, restoration, and reconstruction, which is essentially demolition, what we're looking at here. Why have we gone to the most aggressive of those 4 options? The less destructive options appear to have been discarded without sufficient evidence. Before making this irreversible decision, I feel like we need, in essence, a second opinion, and that is the objective review of the state. Having now met the developer on Zoom, I have no reason to think the developer is not acting completely in good faith, but given what is at stake, we should not proceed with the amount of information we have now. Connecticut, because it's such an old state, is a steward of American and state history, and decisions like this one to protect or demolish add up building by building and determine whether our history will live for future generations or whether it will die. And it is our responsibility to keep it alive and flourishing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Corpus. Our next speaker is Carol Cadu from the Greenwich Historical Society. She will be followed by Fred Lee.
Good afternoon, and thank you, First Selectman Camillo, Chair Albin, and members of the Commission for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Carol Cadu. I serve as the Executive Director and CEO of the Greenwich Historical Society, and for the last 95 years, the Historical Society has worked to preserve and share the remarkable history of our Greenwich community. And we appreciate the opportunity to offer our perspective as you begin your review of this proposal. We're all here this afternoon because decisions like the proposed demolition of 2 Greenwich Avenue shape the long-term character of the town of Greenwich. The direction of the Commission matters. Preserving history is key to preserving the memory of a culture and people. In Greenwich, we have a diversity of people who have settled our land, bringing with them their cultural traditions, languages, and building practices for the last 400 years. Now, in the 1950s, when the construction of I-95 threatened the demolition of historic buildings that were built by these immigrant populations, the Historical Society and the people of Greenwich came together to lobby local and state government officials to divert the highway. And today, the Greenwich Historical Society is headquartered on Strickland Avenue in those saved buildings that tell the history of our early Mianus waterfront community. They serve as a point of our collective cultural memory. The Isaac L. Mead Building is also a significant part of Greenwich's cultural memory. The Historical Society collections include Isaac Mead's Civil War personal correspondence to his wife, as well as Mead's business records and account books for 2 Greenwich Avenue. These records include the well-known names of those who patronized Mead at 2 Greenwich Avenue: Reynolds, Havemeyer, Husted, and Ferris. And in the Mead family papers, our archives also contain the detailed roofing specifications for the building from architect H. Hudson Holly, invoices for the work of masons and carpenters, and supplies for the building as detailed as Mr. Mertz supplying 100 feet of pine for a building's ceiling. They put names to the often forgotten individuals who built our town. These and other preserved documents like them, from records of the civic organizations to Connecticut suffragettes, provide the ability to understand the diversity of Greenwich's people, yet lose meaning without the building where they shopped, met, labored, and even protested for women to earn the right to vote. 2 Greenwich Avenue and the adjacent contributing historic buildings are far more than old buildings. They are part of the cultural memory and fabric of Greenwich that serves as the gateway to understanding our early commerce and community. Today's proposal by Jonathan Marcus raises a question larger than one property. How do we preserve the historic character of Greenwich, so critical to the town's reputation that draws visitors and investment from around the globe? And how do we do so thoughtfully, with redevelopment that strengthens both economic vitality and community identity? Historic buildings can be restored, they can be adapted, they can serve new purposes. But once demolished, authenticity cannot be rebuilt, and historic context cannot be reconstructed. Demolition is permanent. That is why today's decision requires careful consideration. The Greenwich Historical Society respectfully urges the Commission, as it begins its review of this concept, to consider every opportunity to preserve 2 Greenwich Avenue and the adjacent contributing historic buildings, and to guide this proposal toward a solution that balances responsible redevelopment with the protection of Greenwich's historic character. Every generation is entrusted with decisions that cannot be reversed. The buildings we preserve become the legacy that we leave. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration as you weigh our legacy.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Fred Lee. He will not be able to turn on his camera as he is having some issues with bandwidth at the moment. I'll go ahead, Mr. Lee. He will be followed by Amy Keohan. Go ahead, Mr. Lee.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon, members of the Commission. My name is Frederick Lee, Chair of District 1 of the RTM, the district in which these 3 buildings stand. I speak for my constituents, not for the RTM as a body or the town. For more than a century, the Tudor corner at 2 Greenwich Avenue has been the first thing you see arriving at our downtown. It's the gateway to the avenue, and these 3 buildings are part of the avenue's memory, contributing structures in our National Register Historic District. Demolished, they cannot be rebuilt. A replica is a new building. Authenticity, once gone, is gone. Chairwoman Albin has said it plainly. This commission cannot stop a demolition. What comes before you is the rebuild, the relief it requires, and the sequence in which it is judged. Here is what I can tell you directly. On July 7th, I formally requested the State Historic Preservation Office's engagement. The state has opened its investigation under the Connecticut Environmental Protection Act, and I met with SHPO's team this past Tuesday. The structural engineer and historic architect will examine these buildings within weeks, with findings before the state's Historic Preservation Council this fall. First Selectman Camillo has written in support of preservation to SHPO and to the Attorney General. That matters because the applicant's justification that rehabilitation is, quote, impractical, unquote, rests on its own assertions, not independently verified. The state's investigation is about to test it. And the relief for this project is substantial. A fourth story in a 3-story zone, a parapet approaching 53 feet, a floor area ratio of 4.06 at the most visible corner of our downtown. For a project the applicant has stated, quote, will not be a facsimile, unquote. District 1 asks this: let your conceptual comments reflect the pending state investigation, and let no formal application be acted upon before the state's independent findings. Sequence is what this commission controls. The gateway to Greenwich Avenue deserves evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Perfectly timed, sir. And just as a reminder, unless you're speaking on behalf, unless you're an elected official or speaking on behalf of an association, kindly limit your comments to 2 minutes, and we will remind you when the 2 minutes ends. Madam Keelhan, did I pronounce that correctly?
Hi, my name is Amy Cohane. And I live in
Cohane.
Riverside, and I'm speaking up for several other attendees with whom I've been texting, and we're all Greenwich residents. And we would just like to thank you, Madam Chair, for your patience, repeating with clarity what you need to even have this discussion that the developer seems to be so frustrated that he can't have yet. I'd also like to thank the elected officials who really, really are showing that they care deeply about the fact that this is a authentic contributing historic resource, and no reconstruction can replace the historic character and architectural integrity that would be lost if it were to be demolished. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Diane Fox, I have been unable to promote you. Would you kindly accept? You are oh, she's in. Okay, thank you. Ms. Cohane. I think I got it right. Followed by Adele Rhoda. Diane Fox, if you would go ahead and unmute.
I did not hear you. Sorry. I'm having bandwidth problems also. I think it's the location. Thank you very much, Madam Chair and Planning and Zoning Commission. I believe you have a copy of our letter in the file that we sent in on July 2nd, and it does highlight some of the points, in fact, most of the points that you've raised and the Commission has raised tonight. I would like to really urge a structural engineering report on the building. And the question really becomes an engineering report that is independent of the applicant. Now, maybe with SHPO, if they have their own structural engineer, that sounds like an excellent opportunity to take into consideration. But I think that's the first thing that we really, and our group, the Preservation Network, was very strong on this point. And just so that everybody knows that part of the Preservation Network does include the HDC. Andrew is on our Preservation Network as well, and Carol Kudo, the Conservation Commission, the ARC, as well as the HDC. So we do represent a broad spectrum when we looked at this application. We also contacted SHPO and had a conversation with the circuit rider, who was the one who was involved in the prior application that you mentioned, Madam Chair, on the Church Sherwood Street application. And yes, he was aware of this proposal and was speaking to Todd Levine. And we have sent our letter in also to SHPO asking for this information. And actually, I think the whole section 22A19 is, again, the most important. And the question of who interprets that, I would submit to you, this question came up with the other application. It is unreasonable destruction of historic structures is the question at this point, and how that is interpreted is usually left at the state level. So I'm not sure where that fits in terms of the commission. At that time, when this was part of the National Register in 1979, which was part of the historic district that was set up and the study that was then, the SHPO was part of the State Historic Board that approved this building as a contributory building to the National Register. So it's not just within the National Register, it is considered a contributory building. And I believe we attached the summation of all the details of the building that was considered to be the important factors to be
We
considered.
have that. We do have that. We have that in our files.
Right,
Ms.
so-
Fox, just to clarify, are you speaking on behalf of the Preservation Trust?
Preservation Network. not
Network,
the trust.
sorry, the Preservation Network?
Yes.
Okay, then go ahead. We would limit you to 2 minutes otherwise. Go ahead.
All right, so I don't want to take up more time, but those are really the most important things. And I really would suggest that it's great that the SHPO people are coming down. I think that could be a great contribution to both the applicant and to the commission to hear what they have to say. But the structural engineering and also the details of the building that were spelled out in the 1979 write-up, I think would help to focus on what some of the key ingredients of that were. And yes, our network was very concerned about the 2 adjoining buildings being out of scale, out of proportion, and dwarfing the number 2 Greenwich Avenue. So that was important. And they also did not reflect the area in general in terms of the architectural style. So we just want to leave that there at this point. Thank you very much. Any
Great,
questions?
thank you very much. Ms. Rhoda, I have been unable to promote you, so I'm going to just enable you to speak. And then if you would just unmute and start talking. Hello, Ms. Rhoda.
Unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commission members, First Selectman Camillo and Representative Corpus, as well as the woman who spoke on behalf of the Historical Society. I'm joining this evening with my husband and several neighbors and would like to speak on behalf of others we've been texting with on this issue. I would like to simply echo the eloquent statements of all the prior speakers. I cannot compare with them, but I do want to let you know we agree that demolition would be devastating, not only to our town, but to our region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rhoda. Our next speaker is Mary Shaw, and I'm also unable to promote her, so I'm going to just enable you to speak. Go ahead.
Unmute. Okay. Hi.
Yep, you're all set.
Thank you. I'm Mary Shaw Marks, and I am a member of the HDC, but I am not speaking in that capacity. I'm not representing the HDC. I'm just speaking on my own behalf. So my thanks to the commission and also to Jonathan Marcus. I'm an architect myself, and I appreciate his desire to get feedback. And I think maybe that's where his frustration lies, that as an architect, the process is always back and forth with the client. And it's a little hard to do in this format. I sympathize with that. But that's how the most successful projects are achieved. He is in effect the designer on this project, and we, the community and the commission, we are the clients. And he's trying to get our feedback. So I appreciate that. What I'd like to add is that the value of an historic building is the face it presents to the public. Its facade is all we get to see by right. So I've seen many a project where, in fact, the interior of the building is completely demolished, but the facade is completely preserved.
Yes.
It's propped up structurally from inside. So I'm asking Jonathan Marcus if that's a solution that he has considered to free himself up from the restrictions of the facade by completely having an independent structure on the interior.
Okay, so we will ask that question when the public comment is over and it's only you and one more person, it looks like. We will ask that question to do whether there is an interest in doing a facade preservation or a facade easement. We had done one previously. We almost did one, as you may recall, on the Armory. There was a proposal to completely demolish the interior of the Armory and keep the inside. Interestingly, that failed. Eventually, there was an issue with the historic activities and the historic value of the Armory interior itself, and it met with resistance, but it is something we have done in the past and we can explore.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Our next speaker is Jane S. Would you kindly give us your last name, ma'am?
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
My last name is Schnitzer, Schnitzer. I'm particularly interested in this building. My family owned this building for, I'm thinking, maybe 6 decades or so. Thomas and Cook Real Estate and Insurance lived there. That business was established in 1899, and I don't know when they bought the corner building, possibly before World War I, and we sold it maybe in the late 60s. I know it well. I remember it from when I was a child. It's always been beloved, it's been admired, it's been respected. But most importantly, that building to me was always for Greenwich aspirational, because it set a standard of taste and a standard of style, and it embodied a cosmopolitanism which would come to be the future of Greenwich. And as you mentioned, Madam Chair, it's the magic of Greenwich. Says it all. It's at the beginning of where you go to participate in Greenwich. It's been the gateway, of course. Today, I wonder if it's really a bulwark. It's such a grand dame of Greenwich at this point in time, in my view. Of course, I'm a little prejudiced, that its loss, its fall, quote unquote, would be irreparable. My great uncle was an owner of the Pickwick Arms Hotel. Mr. Camilla referenced the Pickwick Arms. I remember at the time the loss of that amazing structure, and it was a sadness for the town for a very, very long time. The current proposal dwarfs its environs. It even dwarfs the Presbyterian Church, which is hard to do. But I just am speaking on behalf of its preservation in its entirety. There's not much more to say.
No, that's good. You're out of time. You did it perfectly.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Thank
I
you
appreciate
very
it,
much.
Madam Chair. All righty.
Our next speaker is Andrew Melillo. And anybody else who wishes to speak, kindly raise your virtual hand, because otherwise we are pretty much done. Okay, good. All right, I see more people raising their hand. Go ahead, Mr. Melillo, welcome. Andrew Melillo, you're the Secretary of the Historic District Commission. Are you here in your that capacity, or are you here as a private citizen?
Both. I'm just here to reiterate. I just want to say just a few quick things. In my conversations with the applicant, I want to give Jonathan, Mr. Marcus here, some kudos for starting this conversation. He's been very amenable. He's open to receiving ideas. We're working to get the HDC to make several site visits in the month of August into September, so that the commission can see the building up close and personal and get intimate with what they're dealing with and have a better understanding of this important building. I want to reiterate also with the report that I submitted to the commission that while we're very grateful for Jonathan's dialogue and willing to speak, we do want to see the narrative that demolishing it is the best form of preservation for this building. We think that's not appropriate. However, I am very happy that he and Todd Levine are going to be meeting. I know that Todd Levine is bringing a structural engineer and an architectural historian with him to the site later at the end of August, early September. So all of the things that you will want to see are going to be brought by SHPO, and they're going to make their own opinion on that assessment. So I just want to give Jonathan a lot of credit for having this conversation, and I'm grateful for all of the time he's made himself available to continue the conversation, and just that we hope that he would revise the narrative that demolishing this would be a best form of preservation for the building.
Thank you very much, Mr. Melillo. And you are sending, the HDC is about to send us a report?
It was submitted earlier, yeah.
Did not see it, but you have sent it today.
Yes.
But again, we got hundreds of emails today. So it's a bit tricky.
It's just a report that states that the preservation narrative from the applicant isn't appropriate, and giving him some recognition with the proposal in some areas and not in others, but also just the general history of the building as well.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Heather Georges. If you would go ahead and unmute, please, followed by Wendy.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Heather Georges. I'm a resident in Greenwich. And I really appreciate all of the thoughts and comments on this evening's meeting. I'm really heartened to see the turnout and the interest in preservation, particularly by our leaders, Fred Camillo, Tina Corpus, Carol Cadu, Mr. Lee, and all of you. I am against the demolition of 2 Greenwich Avenue and the Isaac L. Mead Building. As has been stated, it occupies a prominent position at the entrance of Greenwich Avenue. It's what makes a town like Greenwich truly special, and its history. Our architectural history, heritage tells the story of the town's evolution through a rich collection of building styles, craftsmanship, and places that connect us to earlier generations. Once a historic building is demolished, that authentic connection is lost forever. Even the most careful reconstruction cannot replace the original building, its material, or its historical integrity. I recognize that our town must continue to evolve and accommodate changing needs. Preservation and progress, however, are not mutually exclusive. Across the country, communities have demonstrated that historic buildings can be thoughtfully adapted for modern use while preserving the character that makes them so valuable. Alternatives that retain the historic fabric and work within the existing building envelope deserve serious consideration. I think this decision extends beyond a single property. It speaks to the values we hold as a community and the legacy we leave to future generations. I respectfully urge the Planning and Zoning Commission to deny the demolition application for 2 Greenwich Avenue and the adjoining buildings, and instead encourage a solution that preserves this irreplaceable part of Greenwich's architectural history. Thank you.
Thank you. Perfectly timed. Our next speaker is Wendy. Would you kindly spell your last name for us? And Wendy will be followed by Rachel Khanna, who is a select person for the town of Greenwich.
My last name is Force, Force.
Great. Thank you.
And, I just want to, I agree with everything that everybody has said. And I think you were trying to dialogue with, I forget the man's name, and he wasn't really getting it, that you were willing to ask him questions, he wasn't answering them. But anyway, I appreciate that he has come to the board or whatever, to do a preliminary, this is what he's planning to do. One thing that, and I agree, it's a cornerstone of Greenwich, and we have to preserve it. One thing that wasn't brought up is parking. He's planning on putting all these apartments in there somewhere. And it's hard enough to get down Greenwich Avenue, and I'm wondering what's going to happen with this parking and all the cars. So that was just one thing that I wanted to bring up, that nobody had mentioned. What is going to happen if you've got all these apartments in there, and I think he's got places for the cars to park or whatever, but it's bad enough trying to even get down Greenwich Avenue. So that was just one thing that I wanted to bring up. But definitely it's unconscionable that this building be torn down. And it is possible to go from the inside. And yes, it's more expensive. I mean, I'm back in the house that I was brought up in, and it's from the 20s, and you can, you just update it, Anyway, that was all I wanted to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Well timed. Our next speaker is Rachel Khanna. If you would go ahead and unmute. Hello, Ms. Khanna. Again, Ms. Khanna is a select person in the town.
Good evening. Thank you, Margarita. Thank you to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I want to echo many of the previous speakers' concerns about this proposed project. I also want to thank Mr. Marcus for his willingness to engage in dialogue. I think that's very important. But my main concern is that this building is one of the landmarks of the town. It's a gateway to the town. It's a part of our heritage, and as such, I believe that it warrants protection. And I also wrote to Mr. Todd Levine at the State Historic Preservation Office to request the involvement of SHPO in the review process, and I'm very happy that Mr. Marcus is in conversation with him as well. Again, I think this is such an important building for the town, and I think we need to look at all the potential solutions that would not involve demolition and would involve ways of keeping the building as it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Ashley Cole is our next speaker. Ma'am, if you would go ahead. Ms. Cole, if you would unmute.
There we go. Hi, everybody. I'll turn on my video, even though I'm having a bad hair day. So I just want to speak up as a member of the Sustainability Committee for the Town of Greenwich, in particular community culture, which is the sector I represent. And protecting and preserving this building is very important to the community culture of Greenwich. I think Mary Shaw Marks had a great idea about preserving the exterior, if that's a compromise that we can all live with. That way it stays. But you can have a modern interior and a historic exterior. I've done it myself in my own historic house. And I have written Todd Levine as well on behalf of the Sustainability Committee. And I encourage everybody here to write Todd Levine. And perhaps the state can step in and help us here. But I'm very encouraged by everybody showing up, and I'm thrilled that people care so much. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cole. Our next speaker is Melinda Carroll. If you would go ahead, ma'am.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. And thanks to Margarita Alban, to all of our elected representatives, to our mayor. I am speaking as an individual, and I applaud all the comments that everyone has already shared. I think there's just two things that I guess I wanted to ask. I know we're talking about demolition in a potentially structurally unsound building, and I don't understand why that matters. I think if you buy a piece of property that's on the National Register of Historic Places, it's a special thing to own. And it certainly has never stopped anyone from renovating and preserving a piece of history that's so critical. And maybe it's just the exterior, but we're talking about a historic streetscape at the top of the avenue. And I unfortunately didn't see the Pickwick Arms. I've heard stories, but we've already lost a lot in this town. And I think that the avenue shows that. Today, it's 2 Greenwich Avenue and the accompanying side buildings, and tomorrow it'll be the bank on the corner. You know, which building is the most important? Who's to say? It's what's left of our collective history, and it needs to be celebrated and honored. And I think, you know, someone earlier mentioned the light, the air, the views from the street, the buildings across the street, from the buildings on the corner. There's a lot to consider that goes into maintaining a historic streetscape. And I urge the Planning and Zoning Commission to take these matters into a broader perspective. It's not just 2 Greenwich Avenue, and what a special thing to own. You know, when you're buying something that has that designation, I think it becomes part of your responsibility to take care of it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That was our last speaker. Thank you very much, Ms. Carroll.
Thank you.
That's our last speaker. Anybody else want to say anything before we cut it off? A public comment? Kindly raise your virtual hand. Cheryl Moss. All right, Ms. Moss, you are all set. Go ahead, ma'am, if you would unmute.
There we go. My computer's a little slow. Sorry about that.
I think everybody is.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, P&Z and Mr. Marcus, for starting this dialogue. And it's great to see so many people out in favor of preservation. I just wanted to say, I don't want to belabor the point, but I just wanted to say that perhaps Mr. Marcus could, he was looking for dialogue. Perhaps he could start by touring other Greenwich properties that have been preserved already and have been repurposed and but have been preserved in their original form, and speaking to the architects that have done that in town so that he has a starting point that would not involve demolition, because I think, as we all are agreed here today, that demolition is permanent, and we don't want to lose this piece of history that means so much to everybody in Greenwich. Okay, so that was all I wanted to add. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think that does it. Anybody else for public comment? Not seeing anybody. Okay, Mr. Marcus, we're done. You're still there. You're still at the airport.
I haven't been able to go anywhere.
All right. Well, we could almost hear the thunder on some people's, while some people were speaking. It's pretty bad up here. We have a lot of flooding. So basically, come back and talk to us. We have one meeting in August. I'm thinking if you're going to meet with SHPO, maybe the thing to do is to come back in September, but if you want to come back earlier, you're welcome. And come back for an item this big. Don't everybody shiver. We're available in September. I think we could be available in person. Right now, some of us are remote, but we could do that. But I think the key questions keep coming up. The issue that has been raised about facade preservation is a very good one. But again, I think our first two questions, the additional, to get us on your level, our first two questions hold. Anything else? Any questions you want to ask us?
No, I would just like to say that, I mean, definitely hear how important this is to everybody. I mean, that is clear. But I would hope that people are going to reach out to us as opposed to try and prevent us. We're more than happy to sit down and have dialogues with a lot of key individuals. And we're happy to try and figure this out.
So you're aware, the general public and the selectmen, the Board of Selectmen doesn't get to vote on your application. Yep. So sure. It would be great if you talked to the public and took input. If it informs what you propose, that would be wonderful. But a lot of times people call up Fred and tell him what to tell us what to do, and he can't. So we get cranky when he does that.
If the town wants to turn this into a museum, we could figure out how to do that. But
yeah, there you go.
That's up to the town.
So the question is to get us to where we're seeing what you're seeing and where we can work with you. So whenever you wanna resume this conversation with us, you are welcome. To your point, there were almost 100 people here, and we have gotten hundreds of emails, I believe. Well, I don't know, Patrick, do you have a sense? I don't know. I mean, this afternoon I couldn't keep up, and I haven't answered a lot of people.
We were in the 70s before.
In the 70s. Okay, so we have heard from people, and there is a concern because, again, how do you preserve who you are, and how do you keep your economic vitality, and how do you respect your heritage? So that is our goal. I think we share a goal. I don't think you want to have us lose either one. So we have a common goal, and can we get there?
No, for sure. But the only thing I would just push back to the public is they have to be careful about the balance. And obviously here, again, we're going to try and figure out how we preserve this, but the pushback when you're talking about not just our property, but all the properties within towns, these are also people's private property. And it is very difficult when somebody else is trying to dictate, exactly how they manage the property. So I just make sure that.
But a timeout for that. First
of
all,
100%.
The public does not need to comprehend that. That's our job.
That's fair.
Okay.
That's
the
fair.
Public just needs to be who they are. They're our residents, and they have a voice, and we hear them. The second thing is, it would be different if you hadn't bought a property that's in the National Historic Register. then you could make the exclusively private property and how is their intervention with me? But this is on the National Historic Register and it is protected by a state statute.
Again, here I understand it in this case because we actually are very pro trying to salvage things, 100%.
I hear developers a great deal in Hartford that say, well, you know, residents are always pushing against change. Well, that's a resident's prerogative. And
By the way, we're not developers. I know a lot of people keep telling
but I
us
didn't
developers.
say you, I'm just saying,
okay.
I hear that from applicants, if you will. And that's our residents have that prerogative to be concerned about change. And so our job, it's the Planning and Zoning Commission's job, along with the Historic District Commission's job, to find that balance. We're not asking the residents to look for it. We find the balance and then we see if the residents can, how they will deal. But it's not their task. Their task is to tell us what they believe and how they feel.
Yes, I did want to say thank you. I saw there were a couple of people that could see how our frustration is, and I appreciate them. And by all means, you know, if anybody does want to reach out, I'd be more than happy to meet and talk because we want to make this a special project for the town. We do agree that this is a very important corner.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right. Good luck getting home. Book a hotel just in case.
It's probably going to end up that way.
Bye. All right. Okay, so we now continue with our meeting. Thank you, everybody who has participated and spoken. We love having people at our meetings and we respect whatever your point of view is and we welcome it. We love having people come. So one thing I miss about COVID is we often had 150, 200 people at a meeting and it was great. Thank you very much. Our next application is, and that applicant is
Miss Lee, there's two Dana Lees in the room, so.
oh, they're okay. Okay, our next application is the Parish of St. Catherine of Siena and St. Agnes for a final coastal site plan for a proposed farmers market with tents to be erected for longer than 14 consecutive days on a 524 acre property located at 1113 and 17 Riverside Avenue in the R12, LBR2, and coastal overlay zones. Madam Lee, if you would go ahead. You're muted right now, so if you would unmute. There you go.
I have a lot of echo.
You have a second device on. Can you figure out what other device you logged in on? Because we saw that you had two devices logged in. We can remove the second one since I know.
Yeah,
all right.
It's the same device, but I guess a browser login and an app login.
Oh yeah, you could have done that. You got him out. You got her out.
Oh, thank you. It's better. All
Patrick is so fast. It's amazing. I'm just poking around and he's got it done. Okay, go
Well,
ahead, ma'am.
I'm a woman of a certain age. So
That's not an excuse.
I just don't use this very often.
All right. Well, practice makes perfect. Here you are ready to practice with us. Go ahead.
I am. So I should introduce myself. I'm Dana Lee. I was one of the founders of the Old Greenwich Farmers Market. Started 15 years ago in Old Greenwich at Old Greenwich Elementary School, 16 years ago at Old Greenwich Elementary School, chugging along in the summers. And this year we were looking for a location that would not be disruptive. Well, one, not be impacted by a construction project that will be going on at the former location, but also would not create the same problems that were created at the other location, which is like traffic, limited parking, et cetera, et cetera. So, St. Catherine's, most of the churches in town offered. The one that made the most sense was St. Catherine's because they have that giant parking lot and will not be doing the carnival this year. In our research, though, they have a really big parking lot, but a lot of that parking lot is dedicated to other organizations for parking purposes. So, trying to figure out with fire rules and tent rules, The place that makes the most sense to hold it is in that one lot that's closest to the church, behind the laundromat and the fish store, not the fish store, the aquarium store. That section holds 29 parking spots. It can hold about 12 to 13 vendors, and leaving the rest of the parking lot intact for the current users, and a lot of available spaces still remain. Doubles the parking that was available at the old location. And there's a buffer also with parking that is allocated to St. Catherine's use and visitors to St. Catherine's, which provides another 30 spots. So I could show, one of the questions that came up in the application from somebody on the panel was about how does it impact the parking, the other uses. And I tried to make a better graphic that's just graph paper with where the spots are that are available. And I could share that if that's.
Yeah, there was a disconnect. The church has somewhere in writing, it says the church will have no other competing activities. And that's not apparently totally factual, because when you go there, there's cars there, there's spaces available. So it's not a problem. But it was just that somewhere we got a narrative that said the church won't have anything else going on. And the church does have other things going on. So that's why we were puzzled yesterday.
Oh, okay. So between 12 and 5 through the summer, there are no. And when I looked at the calendar through the fall, they hadn't put on their what you guys call CCD. I think it's called Faith Formation. And somebody from the church is also on the call, MJ, who can speak to the actual church activities. So funerals are always at 11. And that's
Right.
it, 11 to 12, in, out, on Wednesday, if they are on a Wednesday. And then there's a service at 5:15 in the afternoon. Faith Formation looks like it was put on the schedule, but that is children, it's not adults. So they would be probably dropped off on the other side of the building, where there's a drop off and also additional parking on the other side.
So there were, I don't know, there's 70 spots. I would have said there were like 30 cars there 2 weeks ago on a Wednesday. And that was what puzzled me, because the church had somebody had put into the narrative, there'll be no other competing uses. So there's the office use for the church. That's got to be a handful of cars, right?
They 1 or 2.
There's the overflow from the J House. There is the tag drivers would have to leave their cars on the site, right?
There's 235 spots on that side of the parking lot. And each of the other competing uses, the spots are tagged. They are painted with either JH, GJS for the Japanese school, CDS for the day school, tag, and then St. Catherine's, and then visitor. So those are painted and allocated, and that still leaves 70 spots.
Okay.
So,
all right.
So I guess one of the other concerns was about I think it was Ms. Fox, was about the number of people. The number of people, it's counting babies, children, adults. So 200 to 400 over the course of 4 hours is not 200, 400 cars by any stretch.
Right.
So the biggest demand on, people coming in is at the beginning of the market, the first half hour, because, we've run out of things like strawberries and blueberries really quickly. And last week we had about 50 people shopping in the first hour. And then it trickles over the course of the 4 hours.
Okay. Mary has a question for you. Mary?
No, thank you for the diagram of the parking lot. That was very helpful. It's kind of hard when we receive it right before a long meeting, but it was still, I'm very visual, so it was a lot more helpful for me personally than just the narrative. So thank you for that, Ms. Lee. So you're saying that the allocated spots, and it would be on the left-hand side of the diagram that you sent, are actually marked. So it actually says, you know, Japanese school or whatever. They're specifically marked?
Yes.
That's
so the tag spots are marked tag. JH is marked JH, J House. And it's still, you know, even with those, and they're down pretty far from where the market tents would be.
Yeah, and I think that was really anticipated. I wasn't around for J House, but that's anticipated to be in the evenings when there's a lot of
overflow,
parking and overflow. So
yeah, and or if they were to have an event. Yeah, but
yeah, but on the other hand, if they think they're going to have overflow, what they may just be doing is putting their employees there. I don't know how it works. So they may just be saying to their employees, look, we're going to have overflow tonight. Go park in St. Catherine.
Park close to work.
Right.
But there's no intention of taking or using or counting any of those
Got it.
spots. And to have 70 unallocated spots plus another 30 that are St. Catherine's and visitor is way more than shoppers we have.
So you direct your vendors about where to park?
The vendors park with their tents.
Okay, so in the vicinity of the 20.
Yeah, so, and I'll have 2 or 3 people. I try to use those. Do you see the number 13 by the vendor tents?
Yeah.
I try to I put my car there, and if people have an extra employee, I try to have them park there just to keep people from backing in and out where people walk in and out of the market.
And when do you advertise at all? Do you make any public folders or advertisements in newspapers or anything online?
I have a newsletter, email newsletter, and Instagram, and there's a couple lawn signs at churches, and there were some at the approved locations for a short time, but they disappear really quickly. So
do you give your shoppers any indication of where to park? I'm sure they're parking as close to the tents as possible.
You know what? People have been amazing. This honestly, for as rude as they were at the other location, they've been really great. The one,
they're across from the church.
There's just a lot more parking, so you don't have to wait in that circle. Like the other one had that circle, and people would just sit in the circle and wait for a spot, even though you could drive around and find a spot. There's 3 ways into the parking lot. There's lots of parking, and they're like, oh, the parking is so much better. And nobody's complaining about walking from, 10 parking spots away. I'm sure somebody will at some point, but so far it's been good.
Okay, well, you clarified the question that I raised yesterday at the briefing. I have a much clearer idea of how other users use the parking lot. So that was very helpful. Thank you.
Thanks.
This year they're not having the fair. Would you object that if they did have the fair again in future years, that you guys would not have the market during the overlap?
That 1 week?
That if we conditioned you that you would not be able to have the market since
Oh,
there's just not. Okay.
We could just, we could
All
do
right.
that. We could do that if they plan on doing the market
So
again.
I don't know if you listened in on the briefing yesterday.
No.
Okay, so no problem. I think because you were not operating for a while, it was probably a bit slow, but I went and I looked, and there was parking available, which was our concern. The traffic seemed to be well managed. You had less vendors than you anticipate having. And the nice thing was that they were local produce, and that it all seemed to be really truly a farmer's market, which was kind of cool. Although I guess you would grow, which means, I don't know if at some point you would want to certify as a farmer's market, as a local farmer's market. I know conservation and those folks get real excited about that. So, but that was my key question. Arn, did you have any questions?
Yeah, I just had one question. Thank you, Madam Chair. I was wondering, Ms. Lee, if you would be okay with a restriction on no amplified sound
Oh, it's not, because of the parking expense, we would not have it anyway, and there's no power to provide.
So we would just say it.
So, yeah, and so I don't need to have music. It would be nice to have a little bit of background music to help the vibe a little bit. So I would,
yeah.
I don't know, maybe if you could be a little more open-minded on that one, maybe just a little bit.
How about any consideration of adding amplified sound shall be discussed with the planning and zoning staff. So
Oh,
if you're
that's-
going to have a look, if you have it, and then they can just say no, it is
Fair,
at this
fair.
point, the condition is no amplified sound. Should the applicant wish to add it in the future, they are to return to discuss the matter with planning and zoning staff. Don't smile so much, Patrick.
Yeah, just want to add, we're not anti-music Grinches, but you've got a Japanese school nearby. Also, there may not be services going on next door to the church, but people go to church to pray, have a quiet time.
Right.
And I don't think they need to be disturbed with, loud music. Not
No,
that
that's
you're planning on doing it
good
anyway.
consideration. It's a great consideration. I also feel like there's not really anywhere just to put somebody safely, because they'd be standing kind of in the middle of the parking lot. So it doesn't really work to have a person playing music at all. So, nor does it make sense to have a food truck or a knife sharpener, because I think those questions are coming up.
We are not going to restrict you on that at this point, because we know you've had wind chimes and assorted things, and what works, but what we're just restricting you on is noise.
That's fine.
That it not be a disturbance in the neighborhood, that there not be traffic that disturbs the neighborhood. And otherwise, we want you to be successful. People love having a farmer's market. And we just want it to be seamless in the neighborhood. Mary?
Yeah, I was just going to say, obviously, to the extent that you have someone playing a guitar, a non-amplified guitar, I mean, there's nothing against music or pleasant sounds around, but the minute you get into amplification, it's potentially an issue. So I think amplification is the issue, not music. I'm not anti-music.
All right. Any other questions from the commission? All righty. Ms. Lee, I'm going to turn to public comment. We had 100 people. We've lost a lot of numbers. Ms. Cole, why am I not? Oh, I see why not. Ashley Cole has, so once you get people for one application, sometimes they stay. Ms. Cole, if you would go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I figured since I was already here.
That's what happens. It's good. We like that.
And I've known Dana a long time, and I also know her in her capacity as manager of the farmers market, which again is a great part of community culture for Greenwich, to have access to fresh fruit and vegetables and these lovely vendors. And Dana does a great job, and she's incredibly responsible. So I just want to say I really support this. It's a good thing for everybody. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Cole. And anyone else from the public wish to speak about St. Catherine's hosting the farmers market, which I suppose is now going to be the Riverside Farmers Market. You haven't gotten that far, Ms. Lee. Okay, I'll leave you be.
OG.
It's still OG. Okay. Anyone else wish to speak about the application? No. Does anyone object to, Ms. Lee, is there anything you haven't had a chance to say before I close?
No, I just, I appreciate the support of the shoppers and people coming back. And, the new location has been really good for the vendors too. I would have preferred it at the Civic Center personally, but the vendors have been really pleased because we have new shoppers and people who can find the market better than they could down in Old Greenwich. So, and I appreciate the time that you guys spent with me and the application and the paperwork going back and forth.
Well, that's our staff who are remarkable.
Oh my God,
They're
incredible.
just amazing. And I know you were disappointed. I did speak several times with Joseph Siciliano about the Civic Center. His summer issue with the camps was just, he can't, I understood. Because we did go back when he said no. We said, well, why not? And he said, because first I got to accommodate the camps. All right, does anyone object to closing this application at this time?
No.
Nope, okay. This application then is hereby closed. And we would happily entertain a motion.
I'd like to make the motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Jenkins.
As to the parish of St. Catherine of Siena and St. Agnes, application PLPZ 2026-00252 for a final coastal site plan for a proposed farmers market with tents to be erected for longer than 14 days combined on a 1.524 acre property located at 1113 and 17 Riverside Avenue in the R12, LBR2, and COZ zone. Whereas the commission reviewed this application at a meeting on 7/21/26, whereas the farmers market operation has been approved under an administrative site plan tent special event application for up to 14 non-consecutive days from June 17 to September 16. Whereas the applicant concurrently submitted a final coastal site plan temporary tent installation for more than 14 non-consecutive days every Wednesday from June to November for a weekly farmers market, along with an annual renewal of the tents on the same basis. Whereas the final site plan application would allow the farmers market to continue until November 11, 2026, and be submitted subsequent, I'm sorry, I've lost my point here, and has been submitted pursuant to section 613D3. Whereas the proposed farmers market will occupy 3 lots at 11, 13, and 17 Riverside Avenue. Per the site plan provided, the tents would occupy the 29 parking spaces at 11 Riverside Avenue, with use of the parking lots for attendees at 13 and 17 Riverside Avenue. The narrative states that 70 spaces are available on the east side of Riverside Avenue, including 18 parking spaces for St. Catherine Church and 12 visitor spaces. Whereas each tent would be 10 feet by 10 feet or 10 feet by 15 feet. Approximately 12 to 15 vendors are anticipated each week, including food businesses, craft vendors, jewelry makers, and local nonprofits. Approximately 200 to 400 visitors are expected weekly. Whereas there is a bathroom available in the church and a portable toilet along with hand washing stations would be made available as required by the health department. Whereas setup is no more than an hour before start, 12 p.m., and packing up would take no more than 30 minutes. Whereas the existing properties at 11, 13, and 17 Riverside Avenue are parking lots associated with the uses at St. Catherine of Siena and St. Agnes Church at 4 Riverside Avenue, as well as the Japanese School, an elderly congregate building, TAG, Center for Hope and Renewal, and for overflow parking for J House at 1114 East Putnam Avenue. Whereas public comment was received with concerns about traffic, number of attendees, and conflict with the other uses on the property, including the Japanese school. Whereas a retired or off-duty police officer would be hired to guide and direct cars for parking. All 3 entrances to the parking lot would remain unblocked and accessible for users and emergency vehicles. Whereas the 1 p.m. start time is proposed to accommodate potential funerals that begin at 11 a.m. at the church. Whereas the applicant stated that the annual carnival is not expected to take place this year, so it would not conflict with the farmers market. Whereas the applicant confirmed there would be no other activities scheduled at the same time as the farmers market that would require use of the parking spaces anticipated for farmers market use, between 12 p.m. and 5 p.m. Whereas GEMS advised, just bear with me for a second, can't even read my own handwriting. Whereas GEMS advised that an ambulance would not be needed on standby. Whereas the health department has reviewed and approved applications for temporary food permits and issued comments dated 6/30/26 approving the application. Whereas the fire marshal issued comments dated 6/30/26 noting the proposed application is consistent with the original administrative approval, and the layout was established in the field with the applicant. The fire marshal has no objection to this application. The fire department does on-site inspections from time to time during the event season. Whereas the ZEO provided comments dated 7/1/26 with no concerns. Therefore, be it hereby resolved that this final site plan application is approved with the following conditions. Annual renewal may be conducted by P&Z Administrative Review, subject to the following. The church is to provide an affidavit or letter, including all other uses on the combined properties, stating that there is no conflict with the hours of operation for the farmers market. The farmers market shall be canceled during the overlap period if the church decides to reinstate the carnival in future years. Tents are not expected to exceed 15 in number without prior P&Z review. I presume that's administrative review. Off-duty police officers shall manage traffic during hours of operation. No amplified music shall be permitted at any time without staff approval, prior staff approval. If staff receives public complaints relating to traffic congestion or parking issues arising during market hours, staff shall confer with the applicant to resolve such issues. If deemed necessary, staff may request a return to the commission for such resolution. Except as modified hereby, all other conditions set forth in the administrative approval letter shall continue to apply and be complied with. An applicant shall address all other outstanding staff and departmental comments.
Thank you, Mary. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Wells has seconded. Ms. Jenkins, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wells?
Aye.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Harris? We couldn't hear you. You have to be audible.
It's okay.
Not coming through.
It's your volume must be all the way down. Okay, Mr. Harris, we can't hear him right now, but he seemed to be voting in favor. If you would, yes, he is voting in favor. He has just given us a hand signal. Albin is also aye, and with that, the motion passes 5-0. So glad that other people are writing War and Peace. We are now ready to open the public hearing. And our first application in the public hearing, we will go through. We have 3 postponements, as we mentioned earlier.
This is the test. Oh,
there you go.
Okay.
You're good now.
Fix
You're good.
that.
We're so glad you're not technologically challenged. Okay, so we have 3 postponements, which are items 3, 4, and 5 Ferrari Associates, 2 Deerfield Drive, and Peter Bolt at 295 Taconic Road. Our next item then is the Sloan Lindeman Barnett Trust for a final coastal site plan and special permit to demolish 2 greenhouses, vegetable and flower gardens, and construct a new 636 square foot greenhouse, 2 125 square foot garden buildings, fruit, vegetable, and flower gardens, walls, walkways, and associated site improvements, where the total volume of all structures will exceed 150,000 cubic feet on a property that it's 9.473 acres at 601 Indian Field Road in the RA2 zone. And is it Mr. Hegney? I can't remember. I just blanked.
I think it's Mr. Vore, but maybe not.
I hope I didn't read all that for him not to be here. Not seeing the applicant. Somebody's raising their hand. Hold on. It says no.
It's Diane.
Okay.
DeVore. It is. Yeah. Yep.
All right. And the last name on the applicant?
DeVore.
Would you?
D-I-R. I'm putting it in right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
Diane DeFord.
Yep.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We just needed
Okay.
to have your last name. Are you
Thank
able
you.
to turn on your camera? You don't have to if you don't want to.
No, let's see. Let me just click on. My camera is on. Oh, here we go. Yes. There we go. Can you see me?
All set.
There we go.
All righty.
Thank you very much. I am the landscape architect on the project, and I did listen to your comments yesterday. Obviously, we will work with conservation. I know they would like more of a mix of plants, which we will do. We will speak to them about it. It's a pretty steep bank right there. But we'll go over what plants and we'll diversify it a bit more for the salt tolerant plants. The other question which has come up, which is very valid, is that the FEMA line is quite further in than the elevation 15. So we're working with the surveyor and he's applied for a LOMAR, and we are hoping to get the line changed. Right now, that one utility building is actually at elevation 19.7. The FEMA line is elevation 15. So I'm pretty confident with a 4.5 foot grade change, even if they're off by a foot or two, which a survey could be, will be fine. I think my only request would be whether we can approve going forward with at least starting on the walks and some of the buildings and hold that off till I get my LOMAR. I understand that.
What staff suggested, I don't know if you heard it mentioned yesterday, what staff suggested to us yesterday is that we say no structure in the VE, which is
Yes.
consistent with 6139. That gives you the flexibility that if the VE is moved with the LOMAR, you do that. And if the VE is not moved with by a LOMAR, then you do move the shed. But you
That'd
could
be
go ahead,
terrific.
you could go ahead and start and then be flexible either way.
That would be terrific.
Okay.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Because our concern is, the point that Ms. Kolakowski made yesterday is you just don't know, given the storm today, especially as a reminder.
No, I know. And you know,
And
it's
you just don't
interesting.
know. And she said you don't want a shed coming loose and hanging around the neighborhood if it's not anchored. And we decided not to ask you to anchor it, rather than just, it's only a shed, just put it somewhere else. I mean, I know that they
No, I
wanted it
agree with you.
symmetric. Okay. And
No,
as to,
that's fine. And you know, it's interesting. The existing greenhouse is over the FEMA line, and you know,
we saw
so
that.
far it's been okay. But you know, you're right.
You don't know.
Never
You don't know. That's the
No,
problem.
and we
is
said
now
it's a
this- yeah.
shed, and we can work with that. So that's absolutely fine.
About the conservation comments, given what your client is doing on this property, I figure this is wonderful that your client's going to jump all over making this fantastic in terms of the plantings that are selected.
I
very
think I really
comfortable.
think they will, and they
Very
do want
comfortable
it
with having you.
organic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to
Yeah.
say that it's part of the reason we're doing it. It's all to be maintained organically. We'll be working with Home Front Gardeners, which mainly does organic. Yeah, yes,
Yeah. So we figured this is almost a showcase kind of
I know.
opportunity.
I've thought about that at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, because you're very much in line with them. Go ahead. I think I interrupted you. So go
No,
ahead.
that's fine. No, that's exactly what we're hoping to do.
Okay. And any other points that you'd like to make about the application?
No, it's all I can say is your staff is fabulous.
We know that.
I know, but I did write her today and
you.
tell her she was really wonderful. So
Oh,
thank you.
Yeah. They're terrific. We're
Yeah, they
incredibly
are.
lucky. What about the commission? Any questions from the commission? Okay. Does anybody from the public wish to speak about this application at 601 Indian Field Road? This is to demolish greenhouses and put up a new greenhouse and some gardening sheds and do some work, I think, on the seawall as well, right? Yeah.
No, we're not doing any work
Or
on
you're
the-
not doing any work on the seawall.
No.
Anybody wish to speak on this application? Kindly raise your virtual hand. Not seeing any hands. Does anyone object to closing this application at this time? Seeing no objections, Ms. DeVore, we will decide this later on tonight when we finish our agenda.
Good luck. You're moving forward. I'm impressed how.
Well, we had
I
a lot
was
of
figuring
postponements.
I was on for an 11, so.
No, we had a lot of postponements and really, we
No,
thought
I
it's,
saw,
we
but I
thought
thought there were
100
going to
people.
be a lot more on.
Yeah,
number
we thought
one.
100 people would speak on the first
Yes,
one
me
too.
too.
We were
And 2
braced.
minutes each. 100.
Yes, we did that math and it has happened to us. So we were doing that math. Yes.
No, I've been there. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. Our next application is 555 Riversville. Got notes on this. Where did I put my notes? And Mr. Hegney, he likes to be in the meeting before I announce it. Okay, Mr. Hegney, you are in 555 Riversville LLC for a final site plan and special permit to construct a new 2,088 square foot single-family residence and a separate 9,346 square foot car barn, driveway, and associated site improvements where the total volume of all the structures will exceed 150,000 cubic feet and where an accessory structure, that's the car barn, will exceed 1,200 square feet on a 9.436 acre property located at 551 Riversville Road in the RA4 zone. Mr. Hegney?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
For the record, Tom Hegney on behalf of the applicant. We were before you at the July 7th meeting, at which time there was an issue regarding the redesign of the site from what had been submitted and approved by the wetland agency. We met with the wetland director, conservation staff, your staff, and revised the plans based on those discussions. You received a memo from the conservation staff saying that the changes could be handled as part of the final construction plans submitted to the wetlands agency. And I would add significant improvements in terms of the location of the walls, reduction of grading, reduction of fill, and additional landscaping added. Some significant red maple trees along the driveway, the 4 to 4.5 inch caliper range. So overall, it was a very positive experience with the wetland agency and conservation staff to really improve what we have. I know there was some discussions on what kind of activity would be going on. This is more for a display of the cars, this isn't like working in your garage in your backyard kind of thing. This is so no oil changes, no mechanical work, no lift. This is for display of the vehicles and sharing them with their friends and neighbors.
When you've discussed it before, and I asked you at the 7-7 meeting, you had discussed it before, and I said, you've got this mechanical area. Just want to make sure that there's no oil changes, there's no mechanical lift, there will be no need to dispose of used oil, etc. So, and it wasn't in the narrative coming back, but you're saying there will not be any of that kind of work, although you will have a mechanic on site.
Correct.
Okay.
There will be a mechanic there, but no, this is sort of you can eat off the floor kind of facility, not your normal garage and maintenance facility.
And also,
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, go ahead, if you wanted to say one more
No,
thing.
go ahead. Go ahead.
So
please.
the second question that I had yesterday was on the plan you have, and it's just so we know the scope of it, not that I have any issue with it. You've drawn in 10 cars, but you have space on the other side of the barn. So I'm assuming it could hold up to 20 cars.
Yes, yes, it
Okay.
could hold more than
So-
just the 10. That was just an
Yeah.
example of where they
Yeah.
would
The-
be parked.
If you have on a number of what is predicted, and I realize that for some people cars are like potato chips, but if you have a sense, we do have an application that is pending before us that they're very specific. They will have 40 cars in their underground garage. And it's just a question of roughly, I just would like to have it for the record in case someone ever comes in and expands or wants to do more, that it's in our decision when we make it. So I'm just curious about the number of cars. Go ahead, Mr.
Well,
Hegney.
I think you're correct, Madam Chair. There's room on the other side of the building to have
Okay.
the same row.
So
So it would be
approximately
in the
20.
approximately in the 20
Okay.
car range. Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Hegney. Anything else?
Well, the only other thing is we're still waiting on
We know.
the health department, and I wanted it's become an issue, and I want to throw out a suggestion to the commission as to how this could be handled. With septic systems, if I don't have a septic system, I don't get a building permit because without a septic, you can't have a building. We've gone through with wetlands, and there was no issue there as part of the wetland approval. Septic system is in the same place as it was basically with the wetland application, and in order to assist in moving some of these agendas along, because I know you had 5 continuances again tonight, I don't see why it would not be an appropriate condition that you receive approval from the health department for the septic system prior to either a zoning permit or staff sign off for the zoning permit sign off letter. And that way it helps to move it along. If there is an issue, understood, then in the decision, we would have to come back to you. So there's the issue of if this has to be a significant change in the grading or in the location, and that affects the site plan, then we would have to start over. But for most of my experiences on these, the engineers know what the health code requires. They do the test holes with members of the health department so that they know that the soils are appropriate. And it's really a matter of the health department going through the process and checking all of the charts that they have to make sure that this in fact does meet their conditions and criteria. I don't see it as something that is necessarily as involved as some of the very extensive drainage systems that are included in some of the projects. So I think that if the commission would consider it, would be appropriate to have it as a condition of the zoning permit sign off for the health department to sign off on the septic system.
Well, I'm happy to have the whole commission weigh in on this. We discussed this issue yesterday, as you know, not only about septic, but also about the will serve letter from Aquarian. And also I'm sharing with you, I've just sent it out to the commission. Our first selectman has published an op-ed in this today regarding this issue we generally have with our infrastructure, because CNG is denying, Eversource is denying, and we've had problems with the Aquarian will serve. So
Yes.
we did talk about it yesterday. I would not think it wise of us to treat any single piece of infrastructure that is necessary different from the others. I know you're making the point that drainage is more complicated, but I would want to see it treated the same. At the same time, I note that this is only a must open in 10 days. And the reason I'm noting that to you is, when did you submit? Has the health department had this long enough to have a chance to comment? We asked Patrick to check in on all the ones that are pending because we wanted to move them forward. And the answer he got from health on a couple of them was, there was one where they hadn't even seen the application, and the applicant was also pushing for a decision, and they hadn't even received it. So I think we have to treat infrastructure uniformly, and B, the applications have to come in soon enough to give health or whatever, or DPW or Aquarian, a chance to opine. Now, Aquarian is a very serious issue, as you know, because Aquarian is 100 and what was it yesterday? What was it in the staff reports? 140
133 days
and counting. Okay, there we know the applicant submitted. So I don't know how I think we have to be uniform. I don't know how we do it because we have a bigger problem somewhere else. You're only a must open in 10 days. If Patrick had room and you could get the septic by the next meeting, we could be ready to rock and roll for you. And we could act, because I think the commission has studied this in depth. But otherwise, I'm adverse. Brooks, and Noel and Mary.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, it's working.
You fixed it.
I guess in my mind, I wonder if there isn't a distinction between people who are looking for sewer access, electrical access, or gas access versus, say, septic or a well or something like that. So in my mind, some of the issues that are coming up are because of constraints with the global providers of sewer, electric, or gas. And maybe that's different from people who are looking to do a well or a septic system. So I'm just asking if maybe we don't lump them all together.
We could potentially think about it that way, but what we do have to do is we have to have a structured approach on which there is no slippery slope. We decide that something's going to be treated a certain way and we will cut it slack. We often, for example, as you and I have discussed, we cut conservation comments slack and we send them back to be resolved with staff, because we say work with staff and change the planting. If we wanted to do something like that, the commission would have to make a decision. Doing a one-off on one application doesn't make sense to me. I think you got to treat everyone, again, we got to treat everybody uniformly and equitably. So we have to make a policy decision and we have to have standards that work for across the board. So we could make that distinction, but let's talk about how we do that at a briefing, and let's make it a planning discussion. And then by then Mr. Hegney will have his decision and he'll be happy anyway.
Thank you.
And no.
In sort of general, the slippery slope thing does raise a little bit of concern for me because we've looked at things in the past. The other thing I do note was that I guess there were revisions to the septic plan here that were received yesterday by the health department. I don't know if they were significant or what they were, but
I didn't want to
seem
say that to Mr. Hegney, but yes.
Yeah, so sorry, I said it.
That's being nice to him. Yeah.
So I
that's the
don't
question.
A little bit less inclined.
Yeah.
That there's some of that as well, not that it's been sitting on the health department's desk for 2 weeks.
Right. And Mary?
Yeah, I think septic is just too much of a serious issue and it's a health related issue. And if there's going to be a slippery slope, there are things I'm much more comfortable with than septic, because if septic goes wrong, it's not conservation where we plant a different kind of tree or we move a shrub. This is health and safety. So I feel very strongly this isn't the place to make the occasional exception.
And I don't know what we do about some of the other ones. I'm struggling. Yeah. Okay. So the concern is, Mr. Hegney, you just put in the revisions, give it a couple of weeks. If you can get the health department to give you a go ahead, we're happy to decide it. In a couple of weeks, because you don't seem to have any other outstanding issues at this time.
Well, that's one of the questions I did have. I did not think so, but based on the briefing yesterday, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I don't think.
And I wanted to have this discussion.
Right. No, and we said at the briefing yesterday, this is a problem. The will serve thing is an interesting problem as well. Okay.
Yeah, you need to start that process before you know what your project is.
Yeah. Well, and Aquarian, I heard back on Mr. Camillo's op-ed from Westcog this afternoon, and Aquarian is not going to be regulated anymore with the sale. So why would they not be able to respond to a will serve for a third unit in a two-family home? I mean, why can't they do that? And it has, I believe, I'll bet anything, it's already metered for 3 units. So why can't they just say, yes, we can do this? Why are we at 4 months?
I suppose it depends on how they allocate their resources.
There you go. So I think unless the commission makes a policy decision that is there, I would rather not do one-offs. Bad experiences. So let me turn. Does anybody on the commission have any questions on this? We asked for public comment, I believe. No, I didn't yet. Any questions from the commission other than that? No. Anything from the public? This is an application at 555 Riversville Road. Really, it's 551 Riversville Road. I believe it's all the same owners. And it's for a 2,000 square foot house with a 9,300 square foot car barn. Any comments? Nope. No raised hands. So happy to consider your suggestion, Mr. Hegney, really, because we have to know that things are feasible. But yeah, you're right. And if mostly what you're doing is storing cars, that's the other thing.
Yeah, with a modest dwelling.
Yes, with a modest dwelling. Any comments from staff? All right, so you are all set. Yeah, this is a must open at this meeting, and then we would just continue it for whenever as soon as. Maybe if you can get on the next agenda. I know Patrick's saying he's already got 25 items, but it'll be okay.
I am assisting him in moving that so that there are less.
Oh, good.
So we've taken one step this afternoon for that.
Yeah, and that's great. And we will, and we also should be able to be efficient at the next meeting, hopefully. All right. Okay. So you have the next application as well, right? So you're staying?
I do.
All right. So 555 Riversville is continued. And our next application is Sherwood Farm LLC for a final site plan and special permit for the proposed rebuilding of a previously fire damaged cottage for storage and office space with a proposed covered deck for use by an existing commercial nursery use, which would further exceed 150,000 cubic feet in volume. This is on 10 Sherwood Avenue, which is in the RA2 and A and X flood zones. In reading this application, I'd like to make clear that at present, this site, although it's an existing commercial nursery, is for a specialized nursery, and they are proposing that it be a more general nursery as falling under section 6.5 of the regulations for commercial nurseries, that it correspond to the general definition, which is their right in a residential zone. They are entitled to that. It is a special permit use in a residential zone. I'm going to do this from memory, 694(3) or something like that. So Mr. Hegney, with that, if you would proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Tom Hegney on behalf of the applicant. And this property has been used in various ways as a commercial use for many decades. It was a horse farm initially and has been used for vegetable farming. And my client's business is primarily installing rain gardens. And that's why when those of you who are able to go to the site walk realize that we have the storage bins for the various materials that are required. And this is a wholesale commercial nursery. It is not, there's no retail aspect to it. The plant material that is on site is ordered specifically for various rain garden jobs. We had a meeting with staff, went over this, and we provided a number of examples with the letter I submitted back earlier this month. Had some of those as part of the presentation materials for this evening. The rain gardens, when we first started, we described them as needing wetland plants. Well, that's not really the case anymore. And it's a wide variety of plants. And the designs are based on the guidance from our town's drainage manual. So, and they can be very, very different in how they're designed and how they're structured, with the understanding that they provide the proper drainage and filtration for rainwater that is important to maintaining water quality in town. And so it's again, the business is predominantly installing the rain gardens themselves, and the plant material is as dictated by the landscape architects that are involved in each project. So the contractor gets that plan from the landscape architects. They contact my client. He arranges for the plant material to be delivered so that it can be picked up at the same time that the rain garden material, be it soils, sands, whatever the material might be, so that can all be installed at the same time. And we have these all over town now. And we will have more, because this is where low impact development goes. And it used to be, it was sort of an eyesore on your property. Now it's an enhancement. And so that's how it has developed and is continuing to evolve in terms of the plant material it's appropriate for these kinds of drainage structures.
Understood, Mr. Hegney. You heard my comment yesterday that on the site walk, what we saw was arborvitae and impatiens and a few hornbeams, which do work for the purposes, but the arborvitae are not used. I have never seen I've never seen an arborvitae in a rain garden. They never. So
there was one comment. There were also some boxwood there, and one of the examples that we submitted with our letter
boxwoods,
had boxwoods and grass. So
the greater,
in fact, it's right around the corner from Town Hall.
The reason
and it looks great.
The reason I had the concern about boxwood is because conservation has been sidestepping it because of the blight. And so that wasn't so much about the rain gardens and the wetlands plantings, but they have not wanted them because of boxwood blight, because it's going to go away. It's not going to last. You're going to have to get people to replant it. What struck me was thujas aren't used. The arborvitae aren't used for these purposes. And so what that, and the reason we discussed it with you was your answer then was the applicant is then following up the rain garden planting, was what I saw in your letter or your narrative somewhere, with generalized landscaping as all one contract. And that makes sense if what you're saying is, yes, they're still going to specialize in rain gardens, but they're going to do additional, more generalized landscaping, which is fine. But let's put that on the table and say that's what it is.
Yes, to the extent that that is what is part of the landscape plan and the installation of the rain garden in that particular portion of the property. Yes.
Okay.
But my client is not doing full property landscaping, but there would be things that are
Hey, do a rain
accessory
garden
to it.
for me. Can you also do the surround? Mary, go ahead.
Yeah,
Exactly.
one of the things that would be helpful is the distinction was made between retail and wholesale. Is that really a meaningful distinction, and what's the best way to express that?
My client only sells to contractors.
Okay.
The general public does not come to the property, and I think that's an important distinction to make. This is a wholesale commercial business.
Okay. That's helpful. Thank you.
And you would be willing to retain that because it's very clear if you look at the mess that happens at Sandbridge sometimes. Wonderful place and all of that, but when a lot of people go to Sandbridge, it gets really messy. Now, their access is one of the worst ones in town, but the fact that you're in a residential neighborhood, it does make it is helpful that it is wholesale only. Any other questions from the commission? All right. Does anybody from the public, if you don't object, Mr. Hegney, does anybody from the public wish to speak about this application at 10 Sherwood Farm? This is to turn the fire damaged cottage into storage and office space, and to have more generalized landscaping planting while continuing to operate only as a wholesale business. Okay, nobody wants to speak. Mr. Hegney, another thing is, so you've got these previous approvals on the wetlands planting and the conditions on those, which you haven't mentioned what you would want done with them. I'm assuming, based on what we saw, that your applicant might wish to retain inventory for longer than a week than which is in the current approval, and that we should lift that condition of the current approval.
I would appreciate that, Madam Chair. Yes.
Also, since we noted that there was not a display area for the wetlands plantings per your original approval, that we lift that condition, that there be a display area. Okay.
Thank you.
And then everything else that's in all the previous zoning actions seemed, I looked at them last night. I don't know if the rest of the commission has thoughts. Everything else seemed fine, like it doesn't intervene, but everything would remain in effect. And obviously there's our need, and we should talk about it now, that with this conversion of the cottage to office and storage, it triggers 6103.
To be a minimum of 100 feet
6103
from a boundary.
Oh, no,
unless the
that's 694, isn't it? It's in 694.
Unless the commission finds that it is appropriate. The cottage is not moving. It's 77 feet from the property line, but the property line is with the Merritt Parkway.
But we would need to make a finding, y'all, when we have a motion before us, we need to make the finding that the less than 100 feet is not deemed to be, there's wording that allows us to do it that doesn't damage the residential neighborhood. I forget what the verb that they use. So we would need to make that finding.
Adverse effect.
Yeah, there's no adverse effect on the neighborhood, given the location of the cottage and the fact that it's wholesale only and that it is a non-noise related use. Previous approvals did did touch on your noise and respecting the neighborhood and not having under because again, it's a special permit under 617D10, that you not impact the neighborhood with power equipment, et cetera, since you're in a residential area. I assume you have no objection to keeping that as a condition.
No, in fact, that was brought on by the prior location of the storage bins and their visibility
Right.
to the neighborhood, or at least the house across the street, and that we had those relocated. And that was part of what we dealt with the Board of Appeals and with the Commission of prior approvals.
That ZBA decision from, I'm forgetting the year, but that ZBA
2019.
2019, I thought it was 18, 2000, I think it's May of 19. That ZBA decision, what I would suggest we retain the language so no one ever thinks of moving that equipment back, the mulch bins or anything back to that we continue to follow, that the ZBA continue to be adhered to. In addition, as I recall, there's condition about pesticide, and also they were concerned about the stockpiling, which at that time was by the Merit and not by the Byram. Okay.
Correct. It's been relocated to where you saw it during the sidewalk.
Yeah, but in case it still stands, is just the point. The ZBA still stands.
Yes, of course.
Anything else from the commission? All righty. Anyone object to closing this application at this time? Seeing no objection, this application is therefore closed. Thank you, Mr. Hegney.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're done, right?
I am.
Okay, have a good evening.
I hope your meeting continues to move along swiftly.
Well, never curse us like that.
Yeah, there's no traffic.
When you're 5 people and not 8, it's definitely quicker. It's just more fun when we're 8. It's Chip on Mr. Haslam on the Country Club.
Sorry, keep talking with the mic off. Yes, correct, Madam Chair. Mr. Haslam.
Well, it was scary when Brooks was talking with the mic on and we still couldn't hear him. Hello, Mr. Haslam. Our next application is Greenwich Country Club for a final site plan and special permit to make improvements and additions to the main clubhouse, relocate the kitchen into the new building, and reconstruction of the fitness facility, including 1 additional squash court, which will increase the increase in volume would exceed 150,000 cubic feet on an 148-acre property located at 19 Dublin Road in the RA1. Mr. Haslam, that's actually, it further increases versus what was approved is really what the notice should say, but we've got those numbers, so we're good. Go ahead, Mr. Haslam.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Chip Haslam for Greenwich Country Club. With me tonight, if you could possibly promote them to presenters, is Keith Armstrong, who's the GM of the Country Club, Jerry Hoopy, who's the architect, Joe Lurico, who's the landscape architect, and Adam Carini, who's the civil engineer from DeAndrea.
Nothing like coming alone, huh?
Yeah, I'm not sure we're going to need all of these people, but
no.
First of all, we appreciate being put back on the calendar so quickly because we were just in front of you 2 weeks ago, and we've used the time period wisely to be responsive, I think, to the issues that were raised at that meeting. And then, of course, we listened to the briefing yesterday too, and I think we're in pretty good shape on the issues that were raised. We've revised the landscape plan to make it more clear for the commission members as to what's going to transpire. We added more information with regard to the lighting plan. We made some revisions to the maintenance plan that were responsive to the concerns raised by both the commission and neighbors. And I think that's pretty much it. Do we have to respond to GFD on some issues, but that's pre-permitting. It's not at this stage. And I think, generally speaking, Bianca summed it up pretty well yesterday, that we seem to be in pretty good shape, and I hope that the commission agrees. I did hear more discussion yesterday in the briefing about some of the maintenance schedule issues. I thought we'd addressed some of them before, but and I think again that the club has really made a great effort to be responsive to the environmental issues and the community issues that have been raised in creating this maintenance schedule, which either meets the noise ordinance or exceeds it as far as the limitations on the club's use and maintenance of their facilities. I did want to say too that those electrical machinery that was purchased, I think there's some confusion. It was done in the spring of this year, so that was a significant cost to the club. But they're happy to do it if it meant less impact on the neighbors surrounding them. And I think you'll note too that in addition to the hours of use, the club is also committed to not using anything other than electrical equipment on the perimeter of the property where it's adjacent to residential uses. So hopefully the commission recognizes that we've been responsive to the issues that were raised and that we continue to be responsive to, hopefully responsive to the concerns of neighbors, and will endeavor to continue to be responsive by adhering to the maintenance schedule that's presented to you as part of this application.
Does anybody want to ask questions? Anybody on the commission? Okay, I have a point of clarification. I don't have your operations plan open right now. I have a point of clarification. It sounds like you're planning to mow before 8 a.m., but you're only going to use electrical equipment in the perimeter?
We'll not mow on the perimeter before 8 a.m. at all.
Got it. On the perimeter.
Correct. Perimeter fairways, correct.
So you're saying, and I'm not a noise person, but you're saying that when you're not on the perimeter, nobody's going to hear it.
That's the idea, yes. At least we'll certainly will not exceed the noise ordinance, but the idea is to limit the amount of impact on the neighbors with noise.
Okay, and you will not exceed the noise ordinance.
No.
Okay, because we had this discussion yesterday, and it isn't so much about the noise ordinance as it is about 617, about the special permit and about not having an impact on the neighbors. So in theory, if you're far from the perimeter, you would not be following the noise ordinance, because the noise ordinance is very specific. It says no equipment before 8 a.m. It doesn't say by your property line. It just says none.
I think with regard to mowing, there's actually no prohibition at all. That's leaf blowing.
You'd be so surprised to go back and read it.
I've read it many, many times, and I was surprised to find that out. Keith has also done, Mr. Armstrong has also done the same thing many times. And the club has invested, in fact, in experts to come in and test the noise impact, et cetera, on the perimeters of the property. Again, trying to be sensitive to that issue.
But what it says is, and we're going to give everybody this in writing. It says mechanically powered saw, drill, sander, grinder, lawn or garden tool. You figure a mower is a lawn tool? I do.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
But again, Madam Chair, the end of that says it cannot exceed the limits.
Yep, that's why we're asking. Exactly.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I heard someone say that it was a prohibition of actual use. It's just the noise that's applicable, the decibel level.
Sorry.
That's exactly right.
I was crossing over to the leaf blowers. The leaf blower is completely prohibited before 8 a.m.
Correct.
Completely prohibited before 8 a.m. And that's why, that's why we had this discussion about, should we be giving people the ordinance? And the answer is yeah, because it's a reminder of what it actually says. I know we've all read it, but so you're saying you're off the edge, the edge fairways, you're good because nobody can hear it. Leaf blowers, you won't do. What this says is you won't do it all. And the only reason we're stepping in, and we had this legal discussion with staff today, is because our job is to make sure we're not disturbing any neighbors, not to enforce town ordinances. So as long as the neighbors aren't being woken up on a Saturday morning, which is, unpleasant, we're good. And you're not going to mow at all on Sundays, you're saying. So, okay. And then we laugh because we're spending more time talking about the mowing than about your huge project that you're doing.
Well, the mowing, as I understand, and Keith, I think you can speak up to this. I mean, to a certain extent, we're dependent on weather, and whether, you know, in certain circumstances you can't do maintenance on the golf course because of the weather or because of conditions that change in the golf course. But I understand that, and I have to look at my restrictions here again. But Keith, didn't we agree that the mowing would be, it's 6 days a week, but that's flexible. It's not, it doesn't prohibit Sundays. It's just
the maximum number of days is
exactly
6.
That's correct, Madam
Yeah.
Chairwoman.
I was reading it. Yeah, I was doing it from memory, and it's Monday through Sunday, except the maximum is 6.
Yes.
And that you will only mow. You will not mow on the perimeter fairways. That's all on the noise. Is everybody on the commission does anybody have more questions on the noise issue? Brooks.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I heard correctly. Based on your operating proposal, you would not be nothing in your operating proposal would be in violation with any of the town noise ordinances. And even though we're not enforcing the noise ordinance, I'd like to understand that what you're proposing would, by virtue of operation of your proposal, would prevent any violation of the town noise ordinance.
There is no violation of the town noise ordinance under the maintenance agreement, which we will adhere to. In fact, I think that in many cases we actually exceed the noise ordinance in a positive way. By I mean exceed, but yes, we are committed to staying in compliance with the town of Greenwich noise ordinance or better.
Great, thank you for that clarification.
And the way we discussed it yesterday, as everybody remembers, is that our interpretation is that the noise ordinance is in furtherance of our 617D-10, which is will not materially adversely affect residential uses nor be detrimental to a neighborhood or its residents. And so, but with that, you've the couple of other outstanding things. You have not yet finished the planting plan for the rain garden that you could handle with staff.
Yeah, I think so. We revised the landscape plan today after yesterday's briefing, just to have an indication of what's going to be there, and we added the planting plan, which shows that this. Okay, that's
okay.
Yep.
We won't. You know, we on Tuesdays, especially today, because the email volume was huge. And you're amenable, of course, to having all the S&E be in place prior to, which is what you were asked prior to going to zoning building permit. When I think Nick asked you this at the last meeting, if the lindens fail, and then I didn't see it in the material for today. If the lindens were to fail on transplant, because they're pretty significant size, you had a replacement plan, like if they failed within a year after CO or something, that you would replace them in the parking lot, the lindens you're going to move?
I didn't recall that item coming up, but maybe either Keith or Joe, our landscape architect.
Wasn't me that asked it, but it was in my head that somebody had asked that, and I needed to look for it in your narrative. So we would just say to you that you discuss with staff how you will replace the lindens should they fail after transplant within a year. And I mean, this, like with the kind of weather we're getting these summers, it is hard to make some transplants work.
Yeah, Madam Chairwoman, we would commit to replacing them if they do fail.
Right. I mean, you're not the kind of club that wants to have dead trees in your parking lot
No.
anyway. No, no, I didn't think so. I mean, it doesn't impress the membership. That's all I've got right now of the pending items. Honestly, it is amusing that you've changed so much of what you're doing with the building, and yet everybody's been pretty much okay with that. And we were much more interested in the noise and in the landscaping, which really goes to sustainability. we're looking for you to be sustainable. Arn, did you have any EMAC comments in addition to anything we've discussed?
No, I think we've covered it, and so has EMAC.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any additional questions? All righty. Anybody from the public wish to comment on Greenwich Country Club's application, which is mostly, the focus of it was not noise. The focus was to change how they've planned and to move where their kitchen is and in the proposed expansion. But we've focused on these two items. Anybody from the public wish to speak? Nope. Okay. So I hope we incorporated your neighbor's comment, and maybe if you can stay in touch with your neighbors, because when people are really upset, it gets harder to work towards a solution. Does anybody on the commission object to closing this application at this time? Seeing no objection, this application is hereby closed. Thank you to
very
the
much.
whole team. See, you didn't need anybody. We got to see everybody.
I'm sorry, did we ask for public comment?
Yes, we did.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's a miracle. I haven't forgotten once yet today. Now I'll forget on the next application.
I'm sorry, I have to sign my computer.
I do too, but it slips and then I forget. It slips down. I have a sign that I've got taped up. Mr. Basili.
Yes, hi there. There was someone made a comment with Mr. Haslam. It said Greenwich Country Club. So is his name
Armstrong, Keith Armstrong.
He's Armstrong? Okay. Very good.
My apologies.
Who identifies as a country club.
Yep. I meant to tell him to change it, and that I forgot. Okay. Our next item is from the Planning and Zoning Department for a zoning map amendment to establish 2 conservation traffic mitigation districts pursuant to section 19D of House Bill number 8002, which became Public Act 25-1, and also with the changes that are in our regulations at 622. We have had 2 other discussions on this, and we're now in a position where if we have no other comment tonight, we would be able to close this item. Mr. LaRoe?
Madam Chair. Just for a visual, again, this is, as the chairwoman presented, a conservation and traffic mitigation district. This is allowable under the new state law enacted on Public Act 25-1. And it is what the goal of this would be is for communities who want to enact this would have some limited control over requiring minimum parking for projects of less than 16 units. Without these districts, those types of projects would not be subject to zoning requirements for minimum parking. So this essentially allows it in these areas of the town for us to at least contemplate some minimum parking number, whereas the rest of the state would have none for 16 or less units. It is 2 districts, as you mentioned, Madam Chair. District 1 is about 3,200 parcels. District 2 about 1,650. Both equal or less than 4% of the total developable area of the town, or land area of the town. Developable area. That's for another study, another day. So collectively, it represents around just around 6% of the town's land area. But again, District 1 is closer to 4%, and District 2 is a little less than that. So
you just went mute.
Sorry. No, I don't think I have anything to add. So
Oh, okay. That's why you stopped talking, because you didn't have anything else to say. Well, that makes sense. Any comments or questions from the commission? I think in the staff report, it was clear that This has been amended already, subject to incorporate the comments raised by the commission at past meetings. Anything else? And no.
Good to have, so we've done this so that we have a little bit of room and youth. I just want to clarify there, it's like if we say 4 months from now feel that we need to shift this, do you think there's the ability to do that, or is it how complicated, we just have to go through this process again?
So the only obligation we have in addition to normal map amendments of our zoning regulations would be to let OPM know within 90 days of our 35 days that we've made those changes. So this will go to them with a brief description, which is not defined. So we will be providing all the parcel information that we can give them or we think is relevant. And then, so if the commission feels that there's an area that is underserved and needs that attention, then we can certainly move these boundaries or add to it. In the example for District 2, there's areas that could be added just by the nature of that not having nearly 4%. The other district may need more jiggering. But.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Does anybody from the public wish to speak about this proposal for a zoning map amendment, which would create these parking and conservation districts in the town? Anybody in the public wish to speak? We're down to 15 people from almost 100. Nope, nobody wishes to speak. Tracy.
Just want to make sure we have the Deep and the Westcog comments on the record. Did we talk about that at all?
Sorry, we didn't last time, but you're right. Westcog responded and saying it's a local matter of not of regional interest, and the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection was required to get back to us today, and they have not.
Okay, so we have that in there. Okay, I'm there.
Okay. So the deadline for Deep was today?
It was.
Okay. Okay. All right, I just got it. All righty. Any objection from the commission to closing this application at this time? Seeing no objection, this application is hereby closed. Tom Basili? Where is Tom Basili?
Oh, here I am. Here I am.
There you are. Okay, so I got bad news for you. You got to figure out what you're going to do the rest of the evening.
Oh, I was planning to be here till at least
No.
at least midnight, if not more.
I totally thank you for that frightened moment, because you seem to have done a good job for us.
Well,
Thank you for that.
it worked out.
But we're happy to have breaks the rest of the night.
Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So
All of
that ends the public hearing. Thank you, sir.
See you next time. Thank you.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
It was funny. Okay, and so with that, we go on with back to our regular meeting, and we have a discussion item. And our discussion item, oh, he's in. Okay, our discussion item is in regard to the application for 129 Hamilton Avenue.
Chair, I'm recused on this.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And it's the application is, we had approved the application, and the applicant is now back pursuant to our decision letter. This is 129 Hamilton Avenue, where we approved a third unit as a set aside at that address. And it's an existing 2-family, which was approved to have a third to be an 830G set aside. And in the conditions of the letter, of the decision letter, we asked the following: that the applicant shall modify Unit C, which is the new unit, to provide both natural light and ventilation in all the living spaces. changes to the proposed architectural plans shall be reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission as a discussion item at a commission meeting prior to the issuance of a zoning permit. So with that, Mr. Tessie?
There I am. I presume Mr. Pecora is here also.
Yeah, he is. He hasn't raised his hand. I saw him earlier. There he is. Do you want him to join you?
Yes, please.
Okay, he's in.
Thank you. We are before you pursuant to your number one notification in your decision letter with plans that have been submitted to staff and disseminated to the commission members, indicating the addition of a new window in the living room of the of Unit C. There's an existing window in the bedroom. So we do believe that with that new window installed, we've satisfied the condition of providing natural light and ventilation in all the living space of the unit.
What's the dimensions?
I'm sorry?
The dimensions of the window.
Oh, Mr. Pecora can answer that.
And can someone share the, which shows the little red lines while we're talking about it?
We would attempt to make it egress compliant. So 3x4.6, hopefully.
Okay. Can the commission see if that on the, maybe Tracy, if you would put your cursor over the little red lines. So that's the family room with the fireplace. And then there you go, that's better. And then there's the bathroom, which doesn't have a window, but it technically, I don't know if it's a living space or not, if anyone has thoughts on that. The bedroom does have it has a legal egress, which is required to. And this new window here would be added to the left of the fireplace. And Tracy or Patrick, someone made the comment yesterday that this was the only location in the unit where a window can actually be added, a full window. This is a full above grade window, correct, Mr. Pecora?
Well, there's ground on the other side, so I would have to dig that out.
So it's kind of a window well, but it's
not necessarily, because I would dig it out completely, and it would kind of be like an alleyway. So I'm trying to understand how to communicate this. The grade goes up high for about 4 feet, and there's air conditioning units up on that level. I have to move all those air conditioning units and then dig out that area. I just don't know how deep I could go because the foundation, it's a rock foundation, and it's going to be complicated with regards to the structure itself. So I don't know how far down I could actually dig without compromising the foundation because I don't know what's there.
Patrick, would it be inappropriate for us to ask someone from staff to take a look at this in the flesh?
You mean document the existing condition or what?
Or just see where it's going to go and take a look at it and come back and comment? Because nobody's actually seen this. Unless
the location of the window, you mean?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah, no, we can go out and document it.
I mean, having gotten myself into trouble for going and looking at Country Day, I'm like asking staff now.
I think the applicant is here to ask permission, but yes, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, because so could we just ask you to look at it?
Yeah, just call me and I'll meet you over there and we could take a look at it.
And
yeah, I
just
can
see,
do that. That's fine.
or whoever, just I'd love to have, since you guys have the architectural background. It sounds to me, Mr. Pecora, even though I realize that you're probably not delighted, that it's really going to work well for the unit because it'll give it the air and natural light that we were looking for. So on the surface of it, it sounds like a great idea, but I'd love someone to just confirm it on site. Mr. Wells.
Yeah, question for Mr. Pecora. Is the ceiling of that bottom unit below grade, or is there room? I'm just wondering, you know, sometimes windows aren't just 5 feet off the floor, they're up, you know, 7 or 8 feet. I mean, is there room sort of above grade so you don't have to do that digging, have the trench to have sort of a wider, longer horizontal window that would be above grade?
I actually thought about that too.
Well,
it depends. It depends on the structure. You can imagine it's a 120-year-old building, if not older, and it's a rock foundation. So yeah, I have to kind of break it, support it, and waterproof it, and it's complicated. It's not easy.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Second question is, I think, you know, on the left, you said there's a driveway on the left, and that's why you didn't consider or ruled out putting windows on that long hall. You know, I understand, and it makes sense for privacy reasons. I just wonder if you have curtains there, would it be easier to put like 1 or 2 windows there? At least they get some light in on the hall, and maybe open it up and get a little ventilation.
The driveway is right there.
Right.
It literally goes up against the building. In fact, the window near the stairs on the bottom left, that's becoming problematic. I have to take that out and reinstall a new window and waterproof it because of the driveway being so close, being right there.
Right.
So when snow is pushed to get, you know, when you snow plow, the snow builds up against the building, which is basically building up against the window, and that's why it doesn't exist there, other than that one window.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead. Somebody started to say something.
Well, going to just ask for a clarification on modification 3, but why don't you finish?
On modification 3, applicant may obtain administrative approval to convert the project. Oh, that's simple. If the trust gives you money, you just go to staff and turn your affordable plan. We were making life easy for you, remember?
No, you were. But when we had the discussion on this subject, and we appreciate it, Madam Chair, for your creativity. So we do very much. But I had mentioned, if you may recall, that if we do not secure funds from the trust, but another government entity, would that suffice? And I think the answer was yes, but that didn't make it into your decision letter.
Well,
I don't know if you gave that any thought.
I don't remember you putting it that way because I don't think you had the offer on the table. I do not remember that from the discussion, another government entity. I think that we could accommodate it by just having it as a quick discussion item if that's what happened. I had heard that there was a government entity that was talking to you about it. I don't know how much of this I can say. And that government entity, I do not believe is allowed to give you funding. So that will be your decision and you will have to explore that legally. But I had heard that there was someone who had offered at a meeting. And I'm not sure that works.
Yes, it was Greenwich Communities. I don't think that's any big secret. So
okay, your call, Mr. Tessie. I don't believe that anything in the state statutes enables them to do this, but maybe they're better lawyers than I would ever dream to be.
Well, we can figure that out. The point.
Yeah.
the point
Yes, if
being-
you got money from the state, because you know the state has an affordable housing trust fund as well. If you got money from another source, I think the commission would just amend the decision later. I don't remember you saying it that night. I could have just been tired.
No,
but-
that's maybe no. I had. Well, I could have also been tired and hallucinated.
Yeah, no, because
It's
the offer
possible.
on the table was, hey, if you get assisted,
Yeah.
it'll get handled administratively. If it's other than the trust, I would just bring it back at this point and have the modification amended. That's the best way to do it. Patrick, unless you think it's within the scope of the staff decision.
Well, I think the commission could interpret and let us know what that is. If the
Okay.
answer is
If
the
it's-
intention was the Greenwich Housing Trust, then that's the answer.
No, and it's not the intention. The intention
Okay.
was, look, if you get money to be assisted, then convert to assisted. And I think if that's the intention, we could just handle it as a discussion item without any staff report or anything like that. We'll just say, hey, this is who's funding them, and that's the intention. And it was, they could convert.
I'm just not sure. Sorry, Mr. Tessie. I'm just not sure it needs an amendment or an action of the commission.
I don't think it needs an amendment
But
either.
we can certainly keep you aware of
Yeah.
what an agency is providing the assistance, financial
Yeah.
assistance.
That to me was the spirit of the discussion.
Yep, that was the spirit of the
what you two
discussion.
just discussed.
Yeah.
Just one other question on that, and it's more, it's more regarding the whole concept of assisted housing application. They're converting it to assisted. The statute speaks in terms of assisted housing being one where there's funding from a governmental entity for new construction or substantial rehabilitation of an existing structure, obviously, if it's substantial rehabilitation. We have had discussions on that subject with the
trust.
With the trust. It's our view, and one of the reasons I happened to send today, I don't know if Patrick and Tracy disseminated it, was the financial compilation put together by Mr. Picard, showing that he's actually going to have to spend, and it could be more when he had everything up, at least $90,000 in this effort, which to me is a considerable, meaning substantial amount of money for the rehabilitation of this unit. And my question was, when you come to this decision, you may or may not have even thought about it, but when you assisted specifically requires that, right, as a qualifier to be assisted. So my view was, by directing us to move forward, not directing us, but stating in your decision that you're directing, I should say, the staff, the town planner, to handle that administratively.
I'm sorry, I'm not following your question.
My question is more of a statement than a question. To me, for you to have accomplished that in your decision letter, the assisted housing component, by definition, needs to be. How can I frame?
You're going in the direction of, this is going to meet the requirements of assisted because it is significant rehabilitation. All I can tell you is this: when we were writing the trust ordinance,
yes,
Bill and I worked with Ask Santoro this question at one point, and I recognize that is now 5 years ago, and his views may change, but by rehabilitation, he means what they're doing at Armstrong Court. Okay? He means real, total redoing it. As Mr. Pecora has described the work that he's doing in his narrative and in what you guys have submitted, it was just a question of adding a stove, and now you're doing the window. So what Santoro said to us at the time was, here's what it means, because it surprised them that we were creating a government entity, right? For this purpose. But so rehab to them is Armstrong Court, for example. Moving in a stove, and that's what your narrative, if you look at what your narrative says, it doesn't talk about significant rehabilitation of the unit or whatever the wording is in 830G. It just says, I just need to do this few things, and now I'm going to add a window. So I think you'd have a tough time making the argument. But if you can make an argument that you have done that work, then the trust is who you present it to.
Okay.
Not us. We are not the decider here. You're bringing
that's
us
what I was
into a
asking you.
discussion of, well, what's rehabilitation? My answer is not us. We don't decide that. That's Bill Finger
That was
and
my
Mary.
question. No, you answered the question.
Patrick?
Sorry, Mr. Tessie, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No,
Yeah,
no, just saying.
Mr. Tessie, I think you're asking, in the absence of the Greenwich Affordable Housing Trust giving financial assistance, if another government entity, are you saying who would be the judge of whether that was substantial investment in the unit?
It sounds like Madam Chair's position is that
Santoro.
the people with the money
No,
make the decision.
no, it's Santoro. If you are not with the trust and they're not doing your financing, I believe it's Santoro. And I would go back to Mike and I would ask him. That's your job. I mean, that's your
That's
issue.
fine. That's why I wanted to get
If
clarification
you have,
how you see
if
that
you're going
process
to a
playing out.
different entity, you've got to make sure it's legit. You've got to, it's the DOH, and Mike Santoro is the policy administrator for the DOH.
That's not a problem. Mr. Pecora is doing well more, and it's in his financial breakdown than putting in a stove. And he could describe.
Okay, but he doesn't, remember, he's never given us a financial breakdown. And if you look at the narrative we have, it doesn't say any of that.
Oh,
Because
the reason I
it's
know,
fine.
it's
Yep.
interesting. No, but I'll tell you why, because he thought
Not supposed to.
you didn't
Nope.
want to see the numbers, but
No, we don't. We do not want to see the
okay,
numbers.
well, that's
Would you like to
that's why we
see-
submitted it.
And if you
for the
really
record.
if you ask enough times, I'll show you the scars that Wetmore left on me. I am not allowed to ask economic questions. He made that very clear in my early training. So no, we don't want to see the numbers. But if you want to know what substantial rehab is, go to Mike.
We'll talk to Mr. Santoro as you suggested.
Unless you're doing it from the trust, because the trust decides what they do with their money. If they don't think you're doing rehab, they're not, that's their decision.
Well, no, I
But not
understand
ours. This is
okay.
not our game.
Well,
You have
that's
a
all I
zoning
wanted.
decision from us.
That's fine. So that's why I wanted to just clear the air.
One thing I never got clear, this
Mhm.
has got nothing to do with what we're talking about, Mr. Pecora. The 6'4" clearance that you have from the soffits is okay because it's a pre-existing unit and you can still get building permits and everything because it's a pre-existing apartment. Here's the weird thing, and it's a conversion. So under the building code, you're allowed to do that, right?
In my opinion, the building department is going to decide everything.
Okay, so that's the question because, you know, when I was looking at what you had revised, I suddenly saw the height and I was thinking about the height. And so the building department will then decide if you're legit to begin with the 6'4" height. For the commission, the building code has a different ceiling height standard for conversions to residential of existing structures, which kind of really doesn't make sense to me, but okay. I mean, it seems unfair, but so, and that is a minimum of 6'4" under beams and a minimum of 7 feet in the rest of the living space. And I think there's a minimum for the bathroom that's lower. So you should be okay. Okay. Otherwise you will have to do significant rehab.
Yeah, I mean, the building department and the fire marshal are the
They'll
ones
figure
that
it
are
out.
driving the boat.
So we're gonna have staff take a look and then we'll just talk about it at our next, we could even talk about it at a briefing, right? Or it's better to have everybody, they can contribute, right?
Well,
So
it
we'll just
depends.
talk about it.
Well, one, it depends if you have a back and forth, but again, if we're
Yeah,
if we're
I'd rather
voting-
have them.
we're voting verbally or otherwise, I think it would have to be at a meeting.
I think let's just have everybody together. And if you would just take a look at how that would work, and if it meets the objectives that are in the decision letter, it'd be great.
You're asking about taking pictures for light and air, right? Oh, right.
And whether just walking it and the way he's gonna excavate and the
Yeah,
equipment.
no,
whether it
I
all-
just want to make sure
Yeah.
sorry, the question seemed to be broader than I thought it were, but I got it. Understood.
Yeah. Yeah,
Got
okay.
it.
All right. And again, so this whole thing with whether or not you qualify as assisted, not our problem, not something we do. Sorry, I shouldn't say not our problem but it's not, we can't touch it.
That's okay. I just wanted to clarify that all. Thank you.
Okay. And we got you on, I'm on the record saying that, so the trust can't say I'm meddling. But we did talk about it a lot in the beginning. Because we were hoping we could get more units that counted by doing minimal work. And Santoro said, ixnay. Okay,
Well,
just, you
oh,
figure it
you
out.
mean to qualify for assisted,
Mhm.
this assisted housing status?
Yeah, and I don't, and then the other question is if Greenwich Communities legally can do loans to developers. They are the development authority for the town, but I don't know if that encompasses a loan.
So
Or
it
financing.
actually doesn't say loan, it says financial assistance in the
Okay.
regulations.
In their
In the
regulations.
statute.
Okay. Good. Their job.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Have a good evening. Enjoy dinner.
Thank you. Bye. All righty. So I hereby move approval of the June 23rd, 2026 minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Wells has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Lo, are you really there that you haven't talked all night? Yes, he's only
It's
got,
dead light restraint he has right now.
he's not really there.
I am here and I'm watching you very, very carefully.
But
I'm going to report all of what I've seen back to Mr. Macri, and he will be the ultimate judge.
But why haven't you talked? You're allowed to talk when you're not seated, except for when we're voting.
Because, as I mentioned to you, I was ill prepared for this evening's applications. I had not read some of them, and I try to zip it. I know that sounds bizarre, but you know, I try
Well,
not to
you still
speak unless
coulda-
I have
you-
some knowledge.
Well, you still could have complained about mowing noise or something.
Well, no, I didn't want to get there, but I did write down some notes just prior to Mary Shaw Marks. I wrote down, what about a facade preservation?
Okay.
So
We did discuss it yesterday at the briefing. I think we discussed it.
Yeah,
I know.
we did, yeah.
We've
And
talked about it. And we also.
I
we
wasn't
also-
claiming an original thought. I'm sorry.
And you know, the other thing is we also haven't seen the HDC full report yet. And that's going to tell us a lot because I think it was Mary or Arn, somebody said, so we know part of the ages of the building, but is everything there historic? And what are the different constituent components? And we don't know that right now.
We did get that today, correct, Patrick? You
That's what he
forwarded it?
said.
Late.
Yeah. I
And don't
started
look-
to read it and then
Yeah.
I didn't.
And don't look at your email because because we've got so many more public comments that nobody's answered yet. So at some point we got to start. I will thank people, but it wasn't bad. We didn't get that many people.
Madam, do we need to vote on 2 items?
We are going to vote on 4 items, 5 items, 4 items.
Okay. Thank you.
You just thought because we were hanging out that we were forgetting.
No,
our
no,
docs?
well, it sounded like we were saying good.
No, we're going to vote on 4 items. Okay.
I'm now officially going to withdraw from witnessing this.
You're gone because you can't talk during
It's
the
my
votes
attempt to get
anyway.
Mr. Lowe out of here. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, we were just trying to get rid of you.
I know,
Okay,
but
so-
I've been watching you very carefully.
Uh-oh,
I'll give you a
that's not
full
good.
report later privately. Thank you. Good
Oh,
night.
that's dangerous. Okay, bye.
See ya.
Okay, so let's take it from the top, guys. Is there anyone who'd like to make a motion on 601 Indian Field?
Indian Field. Yes, I would.
It's
I was
like-
wondering what I was going to make a motion on. Yes, let's proceed.
Okay, all right, go,
As to-
Mr. Wells.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As to the Sloan Lindeman Barnett Trust application, PLPC 2026-00217 for a final coastal site plan and special permit to demolish 2 greenhouses, vegetable and flower gardens, and construct a new 636 square foot greenhouse, 225 square foot garden buildings, fruit, vegetable, and flower gardens, walls, walkways, and associated site improvements, where the total volume of all the structures will exceed 150,000 cubic feet on a 9.473 acre property located at 601 Indian Field Road in the RA2 and coastal overlay zones. Whereas the subject property is located in Zone X flood zone, minimal risk of flood, and Zone VE and AE zones, special flood hazard areas. The property also contains a man-made pond that is designated as inland wetlands and is located approximately 462 feet from the proposed project area. Whereas the project was forwarded to DEEP on 6/5/26 for review due to the presence of both tidal wetlands as well as FEMA special flood hazard zones. One of the proposed sheds is within the VE zone, which requires mandatory referral to DEEP. Whereas the property currently contains a single-family home, cottage, a garage with apartments, and 2 greenhouses. Whereas the current square footage of 16,424 will increase by a net of 407 square feet to 16,831. Whereas the applicant has not provided a current FAR figure, but the proposal is for 0.041, where 0.09 is allowed. 0.009 FAR is allowed. Whereas the green area will total 91.2%, whereas 78% is the minimum required. Whereas section 6-111D6 of BZR requires a vegetative buffer and natural plantings for areas within the COZ zone that have environmentally sensitive, ecologically valuable natural resources. Coastal wetlands are located on the parcel but are outside the proposed development area, whereas any proposed lighting should be compliant with the BZR standards for coastal overlay zone or residential zones. Whereas the applicant provided a permit needs questionnaire dated 3/2026 indicating no IWWA permit is required. Whereas the zoning enforcement officer noted no concerns on 7/16/26. Whereas on 7/1/26, the health department approved the project based on revisions showing the proposed structures will be 20 feet from the cottage septic system. Whereas DPW engineering approved the project for zoning permit on 7/14/26. Whereas on 7/15/26, conservation commented soil erosion sediment control measures as well as tree protection measures are shown on the site plans. Given the sensitivity of the adjacent coastal habitat, it is essential that these measures be installed, maintained, and inspected throughout construction to ensure that no adverse impacts occur to the adjacent coastal wetlands or the waters of Long Island Sound. Conservation staff requests that the applicant confirm any tree removal is as proposed as part of this project. Should be as proposed as part of this project. If tree removal is anticipated, the applicant should identify the number, size, and species of trees to be removed, as well as any proposed replacement plantings. The proposed coastal planting buffer plan prepared by DeVore Associates dated April 2, 2026 includes 28 native winterberry, I'm not going to read the Latin one, and 14 bayberry, again skipping Latin, as well as a robust mix of fruit, vegetable, and herb plantings that are incorporated as part of the garden development design. Conservation staff would like to see increased native plant diversity within the coastal buffer area. The proposed perennial gardens that are part of the development design may address this objective. However, additional native salt-tolerant shrubs, grasses, and ground cover species within the buffer zone would enhance wildlife habitat, pollinator resources, and overall ecological value with the property in a more natural way, away from the plants proposed as part of the garden area redevelopment. Finally, due to the proximity of the proposed improvements to the adjacent coastal habitat, the use of pesticides should be carefully considered. Integrated pest management practices and organic treatment methods should be utilized whenever feasible. If pesticide application becomes necessary, products should be applied in accordance with manufacturer label directions and industry best management practices to minimize the potential for runoff, contamination of surrounding soils, and impacts to the adjacent coastal wetlands and waters of Long Island Sound. Whereas DEEP has not responded to the Planning and Zoning 6526 referral of this application, and the 25-day statutory review period has expired.
35.
Sorry?
35?
Yeah, is that what I said?
Yeah, I thought you said 25, sorry.
I probably did, but I was actually doing the math. Whereas the commission notes that section 6139 of the BZR precludes structures in the VE zone. Whereas the commission finds this application consistent with the special permit standards contained in section 617 of the BZR and with the zoning regulations generally subject to the modifications provided herein. Therefore, be it resolved, this application is hereby approved with the following conditions. Applicant to ensure no structure is placed within the VE zone. The commission notes that the applicant may relocate the shed out of the VE zone. The commission has been advised that the applicant is applying to FEMA to modify the existing VE boundary so that the shed may remain where it is currently sited without encroachment. If the applicant receives the requested relief from FEMA, it shall promptly notify PEZ staff so that ZEO can review and sign off on the resolution of this issue prior to P&Z zoning permit. 2, revise the coastal buffer planting plan consistent with conservation comments. 3, address all other conservation comments. 4, address any other outstanding staff department comments. Do I have a second?
Second, who seconds? We need a second.
I'll second.
Well, I think Ann
Go
Knoll
ahead.
beat you. Ann Knoll has it for the second. Mr. Wells, our motioner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Madam, oh, wait. Uh-oh.
Minor thing.
Yeah.
Hold on, we gotta add one finding. I just have to get the language. Whereas the commission finds pursuant to section 622A 106C of the Connecticut Coastal Management Act, the proposed activity with any modifications proposed by the commission is consistent with all the applicable goals and policies in section 22A 92 of the Connecticut Coastal Management Act and incorporates as modifications all reasonable measures, including best management practices for stormwater and erosion control, which would mitigate any adverse impacts of the proposed activity on both coastal resources or future water dependent activities.
You know what? You need to send us that because that's your
Yeah, I
boilerplate
realized
paragraph.
halfway through the motion that I didn't. Yes.
Yeah, because that's your boilerplate paragraph and.
Yep, I pulled that from 14 Eggleston. So
Arn
it's
got
the-
that all down, did you?
I'll
Arn?
get
No,
it.
if you can send it, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and then
So that's the boilerplate when we have an expired.
When we have no, nothing
Any.
to do with expired. That has to be in all of our coastal site plan
Coastals.
approvals now.
And that's, she did it for 14 Eggleston and it, none of us remembered.
I
even
forgot
when-
until halfway through the motion myself.
No, and even when we talked yesterday, we went right to 6139 with the structure and
Right.
really we're modifying the structure under CAM as well.
Right, yeah, because it's a CAM,
Right.
this is a CAM condition that needs to be in all.
Right, it's a CAM
coastal.
condition. So if you send it to Arn, he can finalize the motion and then
Yep,
send it
I will
back
do
to
that.
staff.
Sorry about that, yes.
No worries. No, and
Yep.
I forgot too, and so did Mary probably, and everybody. Okay.
You're assuming I had something to forget.
Oh, okay. So where were we? We were Mr. Wells. How do you vote?
Aye.
And Ms. Jenkins, how do you vote?
Aye.
And no, I can't remember if I called on you.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Albin is also aye, and with that, the motion passes 5-0. And we trot our little selves onto 10 Sherwood. Do I got a volunteer? Is that
the motion, Madam Chair?
all right, Mary?
All right. As the application of Sherwood Farm LLC, PLPZ 2026-00051. For a final site plan and special permit for proposed rebuilding of a previously fire damaged cottage for storage and office space with a proposed covered deck for use by an existing commercial nursery use, which would further exceed 150,000 cubic feet in volume per section 6101A and per section 613 through 615, 617, 693, 694, and 6205 of the Town of Greenwich Building Zone Regulations on a 3.240 lot located at 10 Sherwood Avenue in the RA2 zone and A and X flood zones. Whereas the pre-application PLPZ 2025-00469 was reviewed by the Commission on 1/21/26. The Commission reviewed the application at meetings on 4/14/26, 5/22/26, and 7/21/26, whereas a site visit was conducted on 5/22/26. Whereas the property is currently improved with a single-family dwelling, guest house cottage, barn, and storage building with asphalt driveway, parking area, stone wall, and septic system. It is used as residential, historically as a horse farm, and recently as a plant nursery and commercial wetland propagation business. The property has frontage on Sherwood Avenue and is bounded by residential properties to the northwest and south and the Merritt Parkway to the east. The Byram River borders the property to the southwest. A portion of the property is located within flood zone A with an undetermined base flood elevation. The parcel has conforming lot area, lot shape, frontage, side yards, and FAR. The property has a non-conforming front yard. The barn is located in the front yard with a setback of 4.5 feet. The property slopes from north to south. Whereas the proposed renovations are mainly limited to interior repair of the existing cottage and proposed reconstruction of a roof over an existing deck. The proposed construction does not appear to change any zoning setback or bulk requirements under section 6205. The proposed roof would increase the impervious surface by 400 square feet. Whereas on June 11, 2019, the property was approved for a commercial nursery use to establish a specialized nursery for the propagation and sale of wetland plantings geared toward the installation of rain gardens. Whereas the following were included in the Commission's 2019 decision. Applicant has indicated that a sample wetland plant shall be planted as a display near the southern triangular area of the property to provide for a reduction of inventory and also allow customers to choose from the display prior to delivery. Stock shall be held on site no more than a week and shall be protected by limited mulching and hand watering. There should be no fertilizing of plant stock. The stockpile of materials along the Merritt Parkway shall be removed prior to the issuance of a zoning permit, and the bamboo located in the state property shall continue to be eliminated as much as possible to limit further growth. Whereas the Planning and Zoning Board of Appeals granted a variance of lot line setbacks on May 8, 2019, with the conditions that mulch bins be limited to 6 feet in height with no roof, no horse manure to be stored in the bins, and any deliveries to be made during the permitted hours as noted in the Town of Greenwich Code of Ordinances, Section 6B, in order to limit nuisance and noise considerations. Okay, I'm going to do it. Whereas Section 6B of the Code of Ordinance provides the operation of any mechanically powered saw, grill, sander, grinder, lawn, or garden tool or other tool between the hours of 9 p.m. and 8 a.m. the following day, such that the sound thereof exceeds the limits set forth by the ordinance. Again, these are the prohibitions under 6B. The operation of any leaf blower between 6 p.m. and 8 a.m. Monday through Friday, and between 3 p.m. and 9 a.m. Saturday, Sunday, and holidays. The commercial use of gasoline-powered leaf blowers on premises in residential zones on Sundays, and the use of gasoline-powered leaf blowers on premises in residential zones from 6 p.m. the Friday before Memorial Day through September 30 inclusive, except for properties of 2 or more acres where the prohibition ends the day after Labor Day. Whereas as part of this application to convert the fire-damaged cottage to office and storage, the applicant wishes to amend the previous decision to enable a general commercial nursery under which the applicant will continue to operate on a wholesale basis only. Whereas Section 6A5A11 of the Building Zone Regulation defines a commercial nursery as a place where plant materials such as trees, shrubs, flowers, and other plants are grown for sale and permitted to be installed and maintained off-site. It may sell on-site items directly related to care and maintenance of plant material, such as fertilizer, mulch, garden tools, and accessories, seasonally appropriate holiday items such as wreaths and pumpkins, and small accessory, locally made items such as honey, jams, and eggs. Whereas Section 694A3 of the BZR allows commercial nurseries by special permit in residential zones, provided that any building or structure designed for such use, including the storage of manure, mulch, composts, and equipment, or soil fertilizer, shall be located not less than 100 feet from any street or lot line, and any other conditions the Planning and Zoning Commission deem necessary to carry out the purpose of the article. Whereas the applicant has represented that neither vehicle trips nor adjoining residential properties will be adversely affected by the changes proposed in this application. Whereas Conservation commented on April 9, 2026, that intermittent large stockpiles have been observed in late winter and early spring along the bank of the Byram River within flood zone A, as seen on Google Earth and during site visit. Staff discussed on site with the applicant about relocating the stockpile outside flood zone A and implementing erosion control measures due to concerns about loose material in the floodplain and potential impact. The placement of a stockpile next to the Byram River within flood zone A raises concerns about sediment buildup, erosion, and long-term flood storage capacity. Whereas on April 18, 2026, the Health Department commented this proposal is for the addition of a covered deck with no footing drains to the cottage on the property. The structure will be just over 10 feet from the existing leaching fields, and the tank will be closer than 10 feet to the structure. A permit to move the septic tank will need to be approved by this office prior to submission for permitting by the building department. Based upon this, the Health Department approves this application. Whereas on April 7, 2026, the zoning enforcement officer indicated no concerns with the proposal, whereas the application is subject to a DPW drainage exemption and no comments are forthcoming from that department. Whereas the commission finds the 100-foot setback may be waived for the cottage building conversion to office on the basis that such change of use will have no adverse effect on traffic to the neighborhood. Whereas the commission further finds the application meets the special permit standards of Section 617D of the BZR subject to the conditions contained in this decision. Therefore, be it resolved that this application is hereby approved with the following conditions and modifications. Applicants' customers shall be contractors and landscape professionals, and the business shall not address or solicit public customers. Applicant may retain inventory on site for longer than 1 week. A display area for wetlands plantings will not be required. There shall be no stockpiling of material along the Byram River. All other conditions of previous zoning actions are to remain in effect, including ZBA variance granted on May 8, 2019. Applicant shall address any outstanding staff and departmental comments.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Wells has seconded. Any discussion? Nice job, Mary. I liked all that stuff you said. I think the 6103 waiver works, right? It doesn't have a detrimental impact on the neighborhood because no additional traffic, no noise, right? Okay.
Should there be a more specific reference to 617D on that? Or is that okay?
I think as long as we think has no impact, it's detrimental.
That's fine. Okay.
It's amazing how you recapped everything that was in it. Okay, we have a second. Madam Jenkins, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wells?
Aye.
Madam Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Brooks?
Aye.
I mean, Mr. Harris, I can never do that. That's
Still
why I always
aye.
call him Brooks.
Still
aye. And we can still hear you. Okay. Albin is also aye, and with that, the motion passes 5-0. And on we go to Greenwich Country Club. Got a volunteer?
Yep.
I'm like, is anybody going to agree to do it? Okay.
Can
Go
I
ahead.
ask a question? Do we write these things ourselves? Are people writing
Yes.
them on the fly?
No, we write them ourselves.
Okay.
If you
I
think
need more experience before I
We
can
write
even
them
consider them.
ourselves. Each
Brooks,
person.
if you think I could write that much on the fly,
No,
I'm not as smart
it's
as
not
you
on the
think I am.
fly. It's not on the fly. We do it. What we all do, if we think we're going to do motions, what we all do is we do them as we're reading the applications over the weekend. And then you just take notes as you're reading them. And honestly, what staff has learned to do is they lay out the staff report so we can copy paste. So the first thing we do is copy paste all the stuff that's in the staff report that we need to put into a decision letter. Because what we're trying to get to is reduce the amount of work that is involved for staff to get the decision letters done. So while we're reading what they've written, we just turn it in. I did go talk to IT about whether they could do it for us with AI, and they made bad faces.
AI can do anything. Of course, AI.
Not
can.
our AI, because, it's got all these security controls on it. So, I mean, the ideal thing would be if you could take all the application material, turn it into a staff report, generate a motion, and have the motion do the decision letter. And I went in with that fantasy, and they're like, ha ha, it's nice try, girl.
We're close to that.
We're
close.
Yeah, but not in Greenwich, not the
No,
town.
not the
we'd have
IT
to go-
department.
We'd have to go outside.
There's also too much judgment involved. The problem I
is-
have with
yeah.
AI is that it takes every word as being true.
Yeah, but if you could even get a draft, but so what happens, the best way to do it is to capture what's in the staff report. Now, Nick doesn't do that. Nick does shorthand, but then somebody has to generate what goes into the decision letter. So that's just because, it's just a trade-off. And when we're in a hurry, we do what Nick does. But yeah, and you can tell that unless we have 3 people out, you don't get a lot of volunteers. We go, oh yeah, Nick, just do the shorthand one. Just but this will save, like Bianca had, how many, what did she do this time?
5, I think.
So this saves Bianca when she does the decision letter. She's got a lot of raw material ready to go. There's still some stuff missing that we haven't picked up, but we try to get like 80% of it. Okay. With that, Mr. Wells, and that great introduction for.
Of course. And Brooks, 90% of this was done
Yeah, no.
by someone other than
Oh,
myself.
you got a lot of help from staff.
A lot of help from staff and
Yeah, okay.
other people. Okay.
Yeah.
As to the application of Greenwich Country Club, Inc., PLPZ 2026-00225 for a final site plan and special permit to modify the 2025 final site plan and special permit approvals to improve and add a main clubhouse, construct a new building, and effect other changes on a 148 plus acre property located at 19 Dublin Road in the RA zone. Whereas the applicant is requesting approval for a revised final site plan and special permit to remove the previously proposed lower level kitchen from clubhouse and move it to the new Converse building, demolish and expand the current fitness facility by replacing 3 existing squash courts and adding 1 additional court, expanding the upper floor for the fitness area, and affecting associated site infrastructure and drainage improvements pursuant to section 6.5, 612, 613, 614, 615, 617, 694, 695, 6101, Division 14, Division 17, and 6205, 148 plus acre property located at 19 Dublin Road in the RA1 zone. Whereas the pre-application for the current proposal was waived since the scope of this project was substantially similar to the previous approval, PLPZ 2025-00308. Whereas this application was heard at the 7/7/26 and the 7/21 commission meetings. Whereas total cubic volume under this application would increase to 159,507 square feet, right? Yeah.
Cubic
Feet from the currently approved 145,213 and 871,814 cubic feet is allowed. And okay.
The allowed is Bianca had it in there for information, I think, but don't worry, we'll take it out later.
You want me to
there's
take it out?
Yeah, there's no limit on allowed cubic feet. But Bianca had it in
Of
the
course,
column, so
right.
we all picked it up.
Okay.
Because
coming
I
out.
was babbling about it at the briefing too.
Okay. Whereas FAR will increase from the currently approved 0.0225 to 0.025, where 0.135 is allowed. Green area is proposed at 94%, whereas 72% is the minimum. Whereas there is no proposed change in membership, and the site will provide 233 parking spaces as opposed to the currently approved 213. The applicant is proposing a parking reconfiguration which will yield a one-way travel lane with angled spaces. 4 linden trees will be transplanted into the parking islands. Whereas the commission understands that the additional parking spaces and improved circulation will ease constraints experienced during special events. Whereas the ZEO commented on 7/1/26 with no issues regarding the proposal. Whereas DPW engineering issued comments dated 7/6/26 with a request to resubmit prior to zoning building permit. Whereas DPW sewer issued comments dated 7/2/25, noting the applicant is required to submit a letter of acknowledgement. Are those comments dated 7/2/25 or 26?
Most likely
26, gotta
26.
be.
Typo.
Probably a typo.
We
Yeah.
check all the dates again anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, because what happens
And
is-
frankly, we listen to the motions again too.
And-
So
Okay.
we'll go back and
yeah.
check.
Well, and what happens when we're doing copy paste, which we all do, is that if there's a typo in the staff report, we just perpetuate it.
Got it.
'Cause
Noting
that-
the applicant is
yeah.
required to submit a signed letter of acknowledgement of receipt of sewer comments and comments to be addressed during the sewer and building permit phase. The applicant provided a signed acknowledgement letter dated 7/7/26. Whereas the health department on 6/30/26 advised approval of this project and noted the plans for the kitchen would need to be submitted to it for further approval prior to submission to the building department for permitting. Whereas the IWWA issued a permit needs questionnaire dated 7/7/26, noting no permit needed as this project and the construction area appears to be outside the 100-foot upland review area. Whereas a proposed landscape plan required for section 6177, and E and F includes 44 proposed trees and 1,679 ground cover perennial plantings. The tree removal plan includes 7 trees previously removed and 9 additional trees to be removed. 8 trees are proposed to be transplanted, including 4 silver linden of 24-inch caliper, 6-inch DBH each, 2 elm 20-inch caliper, 10 DBH each, and 2 oak of 12-inch caliber of 6-inch DBH each. The proposed rain garden included in the civil engineering drawings, but outside the landscape plan, does not include any details on plantings. Whereas conservation issued comments dated 7/16/26 stating the revised landscape plan now addresses previous concerns raised by staff regarding the excessive use of lilio rope ground cover, the addition of hydrangea and boxwood within the foundation beds around the rear terrace is an acceptable compromise. Although these species are non-native with limited wildlife value, they increase diversity and enhance the area within closed-off foundation beds. It would be good to further add native plant interest with natives such as purple coneflower, bee balm, or other native ground cover such as wild ginger. The inclusion of a native ground cover swath featuring hay-scented fern to the rest of the proposed building satisfies the request for native plantings and improves the ecological value of the modified landscape layout. The landscape plan notes that 16 mature trees have been or are planned to be removed across the proposed work area. Given the scope of replanting with native canopy trees being planted will help to offset the loss of mature vegetation and preserve local wildlife habitat connectivity. The proposed bug, backlight, uplight, and glare ratings, and lighting schedule clarifications sufficiently demonstrate compliance with dark sky objectives. General site and grading. Ensure all construction limits in stockpile areas are clearly staked prior to construction. Install erosion and sediment controls before any soil disturbance and maintain them throughout the project. Energy and sustainability. Kudos to the planning team for working with EMAC to come up with an energy efficient kitchen. Whereas the commission finds the proposed site plan does not appear to constitute a material intensification of the use allowed nor adversely impact the surrounding residential areas. The commission further finds this application, subject to the conditions contained in this decision, will meet the standards of section 617D. Whereas the Town of Greenwich noise ordinance prohibits. Do you want me to read that? I'm happy to.
I think
This is
we've
the
covered
noise
it.
stuff.
We've covered it.
Covered
We've
it?
covered it, yeah.
Okay.
I think
It's just the
everybody
noise.
knows, yeah, it's just the noise, but it's a great idea that you guys put it in.
Someone did. Whereas the commission and the applicant have discussed resident complaints regarding the applicant's non-adherence to the requirements of the town noise ordinance. Whereas the applicants provided an updated course operations plan dated 7/8/26, which states, A, leaf blowers are to comply with Town of Greenwich regulations on leaf blowers. B, mowing operations will not occur before 8 a.m. on perimeter fairways. All fairways and greens that abut neighboring properties will be mowed with electric equipment. Turf fans will operate within the noise ordinance between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. The mowing schedule Monday through Sunday is Monday through Sunday, except that the maximum number of days any one green area is mowed is 6 days per week. Had a question. Are we talking about putting greens or anything that's green?
I think they just said green. They just said, I hold on a second, because it's in their narrative, and you probably hold on. I'm going to their narrative. Hold on. Their narrative says,
I mean, I'm guessing it's putting green because I can't imagine you're going to mow the fairway 6 days a week.
Except it says the mowing routes, greens.
Yeah, they
60.
just have one green area. I think they're
Oh,
talking about fairways and
where-
greens. I
You
didn't
do,
think,
okay.
I
They
didn't
then
think,
they break it down by, which greens when, but there's greens being mowed 6 days a week according to them.
yeah, and the thing is, you also mow the rough.
Right.
Because you lower the height of the rough. I mean, and GCC has wicked rough, but you lower the height of the rough. So I think you just leave it at the green area covers the broadest thing, which is what you got from their narrative. So
Okay.
yeah, just
Okay,
leave it.
we'll leave it as is. Okay, thank you. E, the club has purchased electric equipment, including fairway units, blowers, and robotic mowers for spring 2026. Therefore, be it resolved that this application is hereby approved with the following conditions. Applicant 2, provide planning plan for the rain garden. Install comprehensive soil and erosion control measures prior to the issuance of any zoning building permit. All S&E controls to be in conformance with the Connecticut DEEP March 30th, 2024 guidelines for soil erosion and sediment control. Complete addressing outstanding conservation comments regarding plant selection and native mix. Provide a replacement plan should the transplanted lindens fail within a year of CO. While the site plan complies with BCR section 617, the applicant shall continue to take all reasonable measures to ensure that groundskeeping and maintenance do not materially affect residential uses, nor be detrimental to the neighborhood or its residents.
Well said.
As required under BCR 617 D10. Accordingly, the applicant will monitor its operations to meet all requirements of the town noise ordinance and its own operations plan, particularly with respect to the timing restrictions, so that noise levels are minimized throughout the property before the hour of 8 a.m. Address any other outstanding staff and department comments.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Madam Jenkins has seconded. Madam Jenkins, how do you vote? Oh, does anybody want to talk about it? No? Okay. Those lindens are big trees. I'm glad we got that in there. Madam Jenkins, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wells, how do you vote?
Aye.
Madam Jones?
Aye.
Okay, I'm going to get this right. Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Oh, and Albin is also aye. And with that, the motion passes 5-0. And we go to the last one. As to the application of the Planning and Zoning Department for a zoning map amendment to establish 2 conservation and traffic mitigation districts pursuant to section 19D of House Bill 8002, passed in the November special session of 2025, which became Public Act 25-1, as well as section 622 of the Greenwich Building Zone Regulations and section 8.3 of the Connecticut General Statutes. Whereas the commission discussed the proposed conservation and traffic mitigation district boundaries on 6/23, 26, 7/7, and 7/21/26 public hearings. Whereas the proposed districts shall function as overlay zones and are intended to preserve local authority over parking requirements for residential developments of 16 units or less. Whereas the districts are each below the statutory 4% threshold, with a boundary between the districts as prescribed by state statute. Whereas the CTMDs encompass approximately 4,040 parcels, 6.8% of the town, and are based on statutory criteria, including narrow and constrained street networks, documented parking shortages, traffic circulation issues, flood-prone and coastal areas, evacuation routes, and the street design of neighborhoods constructed before automobiles. Whereas Planning and Zoning referred the proposal to WestCog, and WestCog responded on 7/8/26 and noted that it found the proposal of local interest and with minimal intermunicipal impact and would not be forwarding it to adjacent municipalities or making comments. Whereas the Planning and Zoning Department forwarded the proposal to DEEP, and the comment period has expired without input from that agency. Whereas the commission finds the proposed zoning map amendment consistent with purposes 2 and 3 of section 6.1 of the building zone regulations, which are lessening congestion in the streets and securing safety from fire, flood, panic, and other dangers. Whereas the commission finds the proposal in furtherance of the 2019 Plan of Conservation and Development, particularly guiding principle 5, to maintain economic vitality and thriving commercial districts, as well as guiding principle 2, develop housing opportunities for the future. Whereas the commission notes the importance of objective 2.4 of the POCD, support housing that is in keeping with the existing built environment and is a more predictable product for both the neighborhood and the developer. Therefore, be it resolved, this application for a zoning map amendment is hereby approved with the effective date of July 24th, 2026. Do I have a second?
Why the
Madam Chair?
effective date 2 days out?
Sooner, because you weren't at the briefing, it's the soonest we can do it, the fastest. It's the fastest we can do, per Patrick. And we just want to make sure that it's as quick as possible, because you don't want an application in for something that we don't have, an ability to influence the parking on.
Okay, seconded.
Seconded by Mr. Wells. Mr. Wells, how do you vote?
Aye.
Madam Jenkins?
Aye.
Madam Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Got it now. Alvin is also aye, and with that, the motion passes 5-0. Patrick didn't say a word. We must have gotten it. Patrick, I
was only
did
going to interrupt if you wanted. It didn't ask to vote. Whatever, started sooner, so that was it.
I tried to write it so that you could send it in with the documentation.
Yeah.
So I tried to pick up everything relevant you would want to say when you send in the documentation. And that's why I cited, we don't usually cite the purposes of the regulations, but cited because boom, it falls right into our emergency evacuation, all that. Madam Kulikowski.
Speaking of that, what section was that of the BZR that you cited?
It is section 6-1.
6-1. Okay, got it.
Article.
It's the
Article 2, right? No.
2 and 3.
2 and
I think
3.
it was.
Yep. It's
Yeah,
just the,
section. It's
when
6-1.
you start doing numbers, the word starts renumbering things, and I lost it in there.
It's 6-1 because that's where the purposes of the regulations are.
I got it.
I mean, normally we never usually cite it, but in this one, it just seemed like whatever we could say to, and I took out character from the part of the POCD. I just like.
Yep, we're all good. Okay, no, it just, my notes just renumbered and I just needed it again. Thank you.
Okay, so we're running late for dinner. And we will reconvene in 2 weeks after dinner. Great job, you guys. I think you scared Brooks, but don't be scared.
Yeah.
This is totally intimidating. I mean, it's almost 8 o'clock. This is inhuman. This is very scary.
We haven't had dinner yet either.
That's all right. My little dog couldn't last till 8. Sorry. I thought he was going to have a vote at some point. So,
well,
he started barking at me.
So what did you do? Oh, you had to feed him while we were talking.
Yeah, I just went off screen and fed him because otherwise he was getting hysterical. So
yeah, mine are really good. They know that it's not going to happen until it happens.
Yeah, if anything, sometime around 5:30, between 5:30 and 6:30, he starts to get anxious about dinner. We got well beyond that tonight, but anyway, he's fine.
I do too.
I was thinking more about.
I was kind of worried about where we were going.
Is there any tequila available? But that was during the first application. I was like, okay, if there's 100 people
we have some good
speaking.
tequila here, apparently. So anyway.
All right, you guys.
Okay.
See you soon. Thanks for all the great work. It was
All right,
awesome.
thank you.
You guys did
Everybody.
amazing work. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Send all
Take care.
those motions to staff, please. Thank you.
Motions to staff. Send the motions to staff. I'll tell Lauren. Bye.
Yeah.